Hey guys and welcome back to channel. This is part 8 of What If Naruto Was the Black Dragon of Apocalypse in Fairy Tale. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content, and also go and support the author, link in description. Everyone was left completely stunned as they continued to stare at the older version of the Shadow Dragon Slayer. They never expected to see another person from the future aside from Mirai Lucy. Just what is going on? However, not everyone was looking at Rogue with confusion. Some looked at the man with mistrust and others with anger. Those latter looks came from the remaining Garo Knights as they got back on their feet to glare at the older Shadow Mage. You bastard! What did you do to our comrades? Kamika demanded. Rogue smirked. Wouldn't you like to know? The three knights roared as they charged at the older teen in front of them. All the while, future Rogue was smirking in amusement. Wendy's eyes widened in concern. Wait. It's a trap, she warned, but it was too late. Kama tried to swing his blades down while Cosmos launched her vines, with Kamika launching several of her magic paper. However, future Rogue merely raised his arm as it was coated in a shadowy aura. With one swing, he ripped apart all the incoming attacks and sent his would-be attackers away several feet, injured and out cold. Everyone looked in shock at how easily future Rogue managed to dispatch the last members of the Garo Knights. Everyone gets tense as they prepared to defend themselves to fight, but were surprised when future Rogue simply chuckles. Relax. I did not come here to fight any of you. Unfortunately, the fools on the ground would never listen to reason. As you all should know. If you didn't come here to help us, why are you here? Mira asked in a suspicious tone. Future Rogue tilts his head as he gives them a small smirk. To open the door. The door. Everyone asked in confusion. Do you mean the Eclipse Gate? Lucy asked as future Rogue nodded. That's correct. There are two ways that the Eclipse Gate can be used. The first is the obvious way. It can be used as a gateway to travel to either the past or the future. The second way is the Eclipse Cannon. This is the only weapon that could defeat the 10,000 dragons. What? Everyone exclaimed in shock. It can defeat the 10,000 dragons. Mirai Lucy screamed in her head. Why had she never heard of this before? Wait, so you're our ally? Yukino asked in a confused tone. We can defeat the dragons now. Natsu cheered with happy. Lucy sighed. That's a relief. Wendy's eyes narrowed. Hang on. What's the catch? She asked in a suspicious tone. It's not as simple as the rest of you are thinking. 7 years in the future, I came from, the world is completely dominated by dragons. Only 10% of humanity is still existing, hiding in constant fear that they will be destroyed. That's depressing to hear. Several muttered. And on the very top is the ruler of that world in the future is Acnologia. What? Everyone shouted in shock and horror. Future Rogue nodded. That's right. Acnologia sits at the top of the world with no one being able to challenge his rule. Any that dares to try is completely eradicated. What about Zerf? And the Kaiju? The gods. Couldn't they do anything? They all tried with everything they had, and they all failed. The gods did not seem to care enough to intervene. But there was one thing I and several others noticed about Acnologia. Everyone tilted their heads in confusion. What was it? Happy asked as future Rogue frowned. Something had changed in Acnologia after the GMG. He was far more brutal. More vicious in tearing his opponents into shreds. He didn't even look like he enjoyed it like before. It was like he finally snapped and is always on a rampage against everything and everyone in his way. When anyone manages to ask why did he change, he would always say the same thing. You took everything precious to me, so now I will do the same to all of you. This world has scorned me for the last time, so now I reject it and everyone that lives on it. Oh daddy. Wendy sadly thought, knowing exactly why her father changed. Be wary, Wendy. I don't trust this guy at all. Wendy mentally nodded. Agreed. It's similar to how we felt about Arcadios, but the difference is I can tell there is malice behind his facade. What happened to Naruto Marvel? Natsu asked. Future Rogue shrugged his shoulders. No one knows. They never heard from him after the GMG. He sighed. Back to the matter at hand, we need to stop this as no one else is currently capable of fighting a dragon, regardless of your magic, Rogue stated. That's where you're wrong. I bet if we all work together, we can do this. Natsu retorted in a confident tone. Future Rogue shook his head. It's not that simple. On this day, someone prevented the gate from being opened and that decision led to our destruction. What do you plan to do with this person? Mira asked with trepidation. Simple. I am going to kill them. Future Rogue grimly answered. Several of the mages flinched, while Wendy and Locke narrowed their eyes. Isn't that a bit extreme? Carla inquired. There should be another way to stop this person. Lucy pleaded. Sometimes words are not enough to change a person. This person must die to save millions to billions of lives that currently live in the world. Who is this person, anyway? Natsu asked. Everyone tensed as Future glared at the group, and one person in particular. That person is you. Lucy Heartfilia. Rogue exclaimed as he launched a shadow blade towards the stellar mage. Lucy. No. Squelch. Gah. Everyone looked in shock and horror as Mira Lucy took the attack in the chest. The future stellar mage coughed out blood as she collapsed to the floor. Mirai Lucy. Everyone exclaimed. Lucy was immediately at her future self's side. Hang on. We can heal this. We can, Lucy began saying as Mirai Lucy shook her head. Forget it. This is the end for me. I want to tell you that I never closed the gate. Mirai croaked as blood oozed out of her wound and filling the floor. I know you wouldn't. But why did you save me? Lucy exclaimed as tears began to fall from her eyes. Because if you die, I might disappear. Even if it didn't happen, I couldn't let you die. Mirai explained. Hey. It is weird to die right in front of yourself. What a strange feeling. Please don't die. Lucy pleaded. It's fine. I don't mind. Mirai Lucy replied. Why? Because I got to meet you. I got to see everyone again. It makes me happy. She said with a weak smile. Lucy. Happy cried as flew to Mirai Lucy's side. Mirai weakly raised her hand as she patted Happy's head. Why are you so sad? I am not from this world or this time. Your Lucy is right there. So there's nothing to be sad about. Lucy is still Lucy. Of course, I will be sad about your death. You're our friend. We love you. Happy exclaimed with everyone in tears. Stupid cat, Mirai muttered fondly. She then turned to her past self. Lucy, let me see your guild mark. Everyone looked on in shock at the stump where Mirai Lucy's right arm should be. Your right hand. Lucy quietly muttered. Natsu, look. I got the fairy tale mark. Natsu and Wendy began to tremble uncontrollably in rage. How nostalgic. Brings back so many memories. Memories of everyone. I can't wait to see everyone from fairy tale again. Tears slowly fell from her eyes as they slowly began to close. Protect the future. Those were the last words she spoke as Mirai Lucy passed away. So she wasn't aware she closed the door. Future Rogue muttered out loud. Lucy looked up in rage as she glared at the future shadow mage. Is that all you can think about? I would never close that fucking door, you goddamn prick. Future Rogue narrowed his eyes. Maybe not now. But you will. And that is enough for me. You fucked up in the head, aren't you? Lucy exclaimed. Locke tried to attack Rogue in his anger, but he was swiftly sent flying back. Locke. So long as you live, there's a chance the gate will be closed. Your actions. My actions. Everyone's actions are decided by fate. Future Rogue exclaimed as he fired a torrent of shadows at Lucy. To hell with your fate. Exclaimed Wendy and Natsu as they sent a torrent of wind and fire to block and nullify Rogue's attack. We choose our fate. But if you're so inclined. Wendy began. We'll just have to burn it away. Natsu finished. We promise we will protect the future. The two slayers proudly proclaimed. Lucy, get away from here. Natsu ordered as he continued to glare at Rogue with tear-stained eyes. But, Lucy began before Mira grabbed her and pulled her and Yukino along. We don't have time for this. Let Natsu and Wendy handle this. Remember, you and Yukino have to meet with Hisui Haim. The rescue team, minus Wendy and Natsu, began to leave with Locke and Exceed carrying the Garo Knights. You're not getting out of here alive. Future Rogue protested as he dashed towards them. But he was quickly intercepted by Wendy and Natsu as they sent him back a few feet. You're not going anywhere. Future Rogue roared but stopped by Natsu and Wendy. So stay put, you bastard. Future Rogue gave the two slayers an annoyed glare. I knew you would get in, my Natsu, but I never expected this from Wendy. Though, you are very different from the one I knew. Guess that shows that the future is never set in stone. Wendy retorted. Fairy tale Ost. Dragon fight. Regardless if you die here or during the invasion, the result will be the same, Rogue said as he sank into the shadows. Have you always been like this? Natsu asked as he kept his eyes on the shadows. It's been 7 years. Everyone changes. Rogue responded. Not like this, Wendy replied. Now die you too. Shadow daggers. Future Rogue shouted. Tenryu no Kaden. Wendy summoned her sky rotation to repel the attack from her and Natsu. Future Rogue smirked in amusement. Impressive. You took someone precious to us. Natsu began in a hushed tone as he was enveloped in a fire and lightning aura with Wendy was going into her drive mode. So prepare to die. Wendy exclaimed as the two slayers dashed towards their adversary. Gah! Rogue grunted from Natsu's swift uppercut into his gut. Before he could get his bearings, Wendy appeared right above him as she shouted, Tenryu no Saiga. Wendy roared as her sky talons sent Rogue skidding across the hall. Ryu no. Tenryu no. Hoko. The two dragon slayers roared as they launched their signature attacks as the two attacks headed right into Future Rogue, who did not attempt to dodge. The Future Slayer merely crossed his arms as he smirked at the incoming attacks. Fools, he muttered before he was enveloped in an explosion of fire, lightning, and wind. The two transformed slayers glared at the dust cloud caused by their attacks, waiting for their opponent to appear. They knew it would take more than that to beat him, let alone kill him. However, that did not stop their eyes widening when the dust cleared for them to see Future Rogue in the center of the explosion with no injuries. How the hell are you not injured? Natsu and Wendy exclaimed. I told you fools before, people change after 7 years. Future Rogue retorted. 7 years or not, there's something off with you, Wendy growled as her face scrunched in disgust. Your scent reeks of dragon flesh. What did you do to yourself? Hee hee. Ha 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 ha. So you noticed that, huh? Well, since I am going to kill you both here, I will humor you. Future Rogue gave them a demented smirk. I realized I needed to become stronger than I was. The first thing I did was kill Sting before absorbing his magical power along with the lacrima inside his body so that I could obtain the power of White Dragonslayer magic. Although there was something else I found. I found Weislagia's soul inside of Sting's body. What? The two slayers exclaimed in shock. His dragon was inside of him. Natsu shouted in shock. How in the hell did his dragon end up inside his body? Those two claimed they killed their dragons to become true slayers. So what the hell was going on? Wendy was just as confused about this revelation. Why would his dragon be in his body? Oh my god. Wendy exclaimed as she had an epiphany. That's where our dragons are. Inside of us. Ding. Ding. Give the girl a prize. Dark Wendy exclaimed in a mock cheer. You knew this entire time. Yes, but now is not the time for this, Wendy. We will have a long talk after this dark. Hi. Hi. Whatever you say. Now focus back on the bastard. That's right. I never found out why he was inside him as it did not matter to me. So I devoured his soul and did the same to Skiadram's soul, who was residing in my soul. After that, I used my newfound power to kill several weaker dragons and devour their flesh to get even stronger. Natsu and Wendy looked at him in shock and horror. You are sick in the head, Natsu muttered in disgust as the Future Slayer shrugged nonchalantly. All in the name of achieving my objective. Future Rogue was soon enveloped in a black and white aura. But enough talk, let's continue this. Natsu. I know. Rogue dashed forward along with Natsu and Wendy doing the same. Karyu no. Tenryu no. Hakwaryu no. Tekken. Shockwaves of fire, wind, and shadow white rippled across the area of the hallway in massive shockwaves that ripped the surrounding apart. Wendy tried to land a sky claw with Natsu attempting a fire talon attack, but Rogue merely jumped into the shadows again. Wendy and Natsu growled at this. I am getting tired of that cheap move, Wendy growled in anger. Same here. Natsu gritted out. Suddenly they felt a sudden shift as they turned to see Future Rogue jumped out from the shadows behind them with his arms charged with shadow and white magic. White Shadow Pulse. Future Rogue shouted. Gah! The two mages of Fairy Tail grunted as they skidded across the floor. Both roared as they released their magical power to nullify the attack. Wendy and Natsu then dashed forward and launched a flurry of attacks against Future Rogue, who managed to block and parry each one with relative ease. You two are strong, but you lack any coordination to work together. Future Rogue lectured before grabbing Wendy's arm and Natsu's leg. Wendy growled as she tried a roundhouse kick, but Rogue simply ducks before slamming Wendy into the ground. The Sky Dragon coughs out blood as she was impacted into a crater from the slam. Natsu shouts in concern as he charges his free hand for his next attack. Ryu no Hoken. Natsu shouts as he is about to launch his next attack, but Future Rogue smirks as he lets go of Natsu and forms a black portal between the two. Black Mirror. Future Rogue muttered as the breakdown fist was absorbed by the portal before disappearing. Wendy had gotten out of her crater as she jumped at Rogue. The Future Slayer merely raised his hand as the black portal reappeared with Natsu's Hoken coming right out and straight into Wendy. Wendy's eyes widened as she had no time to dodge and thus crossed her arms and braced for impact. The Hoken attack slammed into her as Wendy gritted her teeth as the burning sensations from the fire and the electricity dancing around her body as she was slammed into the wall across from them. Wendy. Natsu screamed in shock and confusion. Oh, attacking your comrades, Natsu. I thought fairy tale mages were above that. Future Rogue mocked. Natsu whirled to glare at Future Rogue. What did you do? He snarled. Black Mirror. A special spell of Shadow Dragon Slayers that absorbs attacks and allows me to reflect them to my opponents. But our rogue never used something like that. Future Rogue scoffed. That is because the fool has never tired taking his Dragon Slayer magic further than what he was taught. Just like the rest of you. None of you have ever tried to truly master your art. Wendy is so far the only one to take her magic further than what she had in her arsenal, but you all still fall beneath me. We'll see about that. Natsu roars as he lunges at Future Rogue again. Meanwhile, Wendy coughed out to get some air as blood, spit, and bile oozed out of her mouth. She could feel her skin singe from the burns she suffered from the attack. While nothing permanent had been inflicted, it did not make it any less painful. Oi, you still up for another round? Yeah, just give me a minute to breathe. These burns are nothing to scoff at. Yeah, Natsu is no slouch. Don't worry, I am sending you some of the power to help speed up your healing. Thank you. I may just have to use that. You sure? Not that I mind as I want to rip that bastard as much as you do, but are you ready to show that side of you? There's no turning back after this. I am ready. Wendy replied as she began to get back on her feet. Heads up. Wendy's head shot up as she narrowly dodged an attack that would have pierced her head. She looked up too late to see Future Rogue uppercut her into the air. Future Rogue appeared above her as he grabbed her head as it enveloped in a white and black aura. White Shadow Eruption. Future Rogue roared as he slammed Wendy into the ground as a pillar of white and shadow magic erupted from the crater formed from the collision. Wendy. Natsu shouted in concern for his fellow Slayer. He lunged forward to aid her but gasped in pain as he was impaled into the wall behind him with several shadow constructs in the shape of swords. He grunted in pain as he looked down to see his shoulders, palms, and upper thighs were impaled with blood oozing out of the wounds. Natsu gritted his teeth in pain as blood dripped from the sides of the mouth. He looked up to glare at Future Rogue who was shaking his finger at him as if he was lecturing a child. Now Natsu. Wait for your turn. I will get to you soon enough. He said before turning to the corpse of Future Lucy. But first let me get rid of the trash that's becoming an eyesore for me. Natsu's eyes widened when he heard this as he began struggling against his confines. Stay the hell away from her. Future Rogue looked at him with a bemused smirk. Why are so protective of a corpse? She is just trash. I killed her like the trash she was and now I will get rid of her corpse just like the trash she is. Rogue explained as his palms were charged in magical energy. Natsu paused as everything began slowing down all around him. Everything became black and white with the only noise he could hear was his heartbeat. BADUMP. BADUMP. Lucy. BADUMP. I need to move. Natsu screamed as he struggled against his restraints. Damn it, move. BADUMP. Why? Why am I so weak? BADUMP. I couldn't beat Gajil without Lucy. I needed to eat Etherian to fight Jellal. I would have died without Gajil helping me against Laxus. Guildarts played around with me. I couldn't do anything alone against Hades, and Acnologia treated us like nuisances. Why can't I win on my own? Why can't I save anyone close to me? BADUMP. Protect the future. The last request from future Lucy before she passed on. No. I won't let this end here. This won't mean anything if I don't win this. BADUMP. I want to win. I need to win. Natsu roared in his mind as something cracked inside his body. Natsu's eyes disappeared as they began to shine a deep blood red. Rogue was about to blast Lucy before he paused as he felt a malevolent magical energy rising behind him. He turned his head, only to jump to the side as he dodged a swing to his face as the attacker's arm slammed into the ground as several chunks of debris flew into the air. Future Rogue skidded a few feet away, getting his bearings as he looked up in surprise at who attacked him. It was Natsu, but something was off. He had gone under a transformation that he had never seen before. His hair was more untamed with several blood-red highlights. His arms and legs had become much more demonic in appearance. His hands and feet became sharp claws and took a blood-red color. His eyes were completely blood-red with yellow pupils, and his body was expelling black and crimson flames from several areas in his body. Future Rogue looked at this new transformation with a critical eye. Ho! What's this transformation? You never showed something like this in the timeline I originated from. Is this a new power you have obtained in this timeline, or did you just need a trigger to cause this transformation? Natsu just continued to glare as the flames continued to be expelled from his body. I am going to kill you. Future Rogue tilted his head in amusement. Ho! You took my precious person from me, so I am going to kill you. A little dark for you. Though not like I am one to talk. Future Rogue said before giving Natsu a come hither motion. Then come and show you me your desire to kill me. Natsu growled before he disappeared in a blur. Future Rogue's eyes widened before crossing his arms and blocking a right hook to his face. The duel slayer skidded across the hall from the sheer force of the attack. His eyes widened as he felt his arms being pulled apart as he looked to see the angry visage of Natsu Dragneel. Natsu reared his head back as he took in a deep breath. Rogue's eyes widened as he knew what was coming. He quickly turned into shadows as Natsu roared, Juhakaryu no Hoko curse fire dragon's roar. As a stream of black and crimson flames ripped through the hallway. Rogue appeared several feet behind Natsu and was shocked to see the devastation caused by his attack. His roar carved through the entire hallway and caused everything around the carved crater to melt as it oozed down to the carved ground. Unbelievable, he melted the stone around the hall with ease. He never could do something like that before or in my timeline. Rogue thought before he flinched as he looked down to see his arms had scorch marks around his arms. He burned my arms. Just what is he? He looked up to see Natsu turned towards him as he roared with black and crimson flames erupting from his body. Future Rogue smirked. All right then. Let me humor you. Future Forg said as his magical energy erupted from his body. His hair became untamed and rose upwards and took on a somewhat spiky appearance. The right side of his body became completely black with several white scales appearing on the left side of his body. White Shadow Mode. Future Rogue said as he looked at his opponents. Show me your moves, Natsu Dragneel. Natsu roared as the two lunged at one another. Juhakaryu no Tekken curse fire dragon's iron fist. As Natsu launched a fist covered in crimson and black flames. Hakwaryu no Tekken white shadow dragon's iron fist. Future Rogue retaliated with his iron fist covered in white and shadow magic. The two iron fists collided against one another as flames and shadow light magic rippled once more across the arena. Natsu tried to slash Rogue's face, but the duel slayer disappeared into shadow before appearing a few feet away from him. Rogue then swiped his arm as Natsu grunted in pain as he felt something blast his shoulder. He looked to see a white blast hit his shoulder. He turned to Rogue as the wound slowly healed. Rogue looked intrigued. It seems your powers have a demonic nature to them. He inquired before he smirked. Too bad for you, as my White Slayer magic's holy nature is a hard counter against you. Natsu growled as he dashed towards him. Rogue simply smirked before disappearing in a white flash. Natsu grunted as a cross-shaped slash appeared in his chest. He turned to glare at a smirking Rogue. He lunged forward and went into a flurry of attacks, but Rogue blocked each one with his arms coated in White Slayer magic. You may have power, Natsu Dragneel, but it seems you have no clue how to use it. White Lance Barrage. Rogue said as he launched a flurry of lances that pierced Natsu's skin as he roared in pain as he skidded several feet away. Natsu was about to get up but paused as he saw a white magical seal below him. You're finished. White pillar of destruction. Gah. Ha 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 ha. Go into oblivion Natsu Dragneel. Natsu growled as he ignored the pain he was feeling as raised his fist as he charged his magic into his fist. Juhakaryu no Hoken Curse Fire Dragon's Breakdown Fist. He roared as he slammed his attack into the seal as the sigil cracked before completely shattering. What? You destroyed the sigil with your bare hands. Rogue shouted in shock. Natsu growled as he glared at future Rogue and was about to lunge if he did not get blasted into his side. Natsu roared in pain as held his side in pain as he fell to his knees. He looked up to glare at future Rogue's glare. I wouldn't let go if I were you. My attack blasted all the skin off along with some muscle tissue, which is now causing you to bleed profusely. Your arms are the only thing keeping you from fainting due to blood loss. Natsu growled as his hands ignited into flames. He growled at the pain he felt, but he endured it. Rogue looked stupefied to see Natsu get back up and saw severe burns around the area he hit. You burned the wound to close it up. Rather reckless, but an effective method nonetheless. But I see that I have played long enough with you. Natsu lunged again but was trapped by several shadow tendrils. Hakuaryu no Ashijinu, White Shadow Dragon's Rough Silk. Natsu roared in pain as he felt his body being cut again and again all over from every side. Rogue appeared in front of Natsu with both hands over his head as they glowed in white and shadow magical energy. This is the end. White Shadow Execution. Rogue shouted as Natsu roared in pain as a giant explosion enveloped the two. Wendy coughed as she was finally regaining her senses from Rogue's sucker punch. She turned to see everything enveloped in a giant dust cloud. What happened? You were knocked out, and Natsu kept fighting and it looks like he snapped before gaining a slight edge over Rogue. But then Rogue transformed into his duel mode and began to overwhelm Natsu. Damn it. Wendy cursed at herself for getting so easily knocked out. When the smoke cleared, Wendy's eyes widened as he saw Rogue hoisting Natsu by his throat. And that is the end of that. He said before tossing Natsu to the side as he groaned in pain. Rogue looked up to Lucis' corpse. Time to finish what I started. He began to walk forward before he stopped as he felt something grab his leg. He turned to see a semi-conscious Natsu holding his foot. Wait. You're not getting near Lucy. Natsu coughed out slowly as he glared at Rogue with blurry eyes. You are a stubborn mage, Natsu. But this is the end of the line for you. Rogue said as he sent Natsu into the wall with a shadow slash. He turned to the corpse as he pointed at the body with his open palm as it glowed with magical energy. Farewell, trash. Rogue fired his attack as Natsu shouted. Suddenly Wendy appeared in front of Mirai Lucis' corpse and took the brunt of the blast onto her back. What? The two mages said in confusion. Rogue merely sighed in annoyed exasperation. You fairy tale mages are too stubborn to quit when you were ahead. Rogue then walked towards the injured Sky Maiden. So do you have anything to fight me with, Wendy Marvell? Wendy said nothing as she continued to look down at the corpse of the future Lucy with her eyes shadowed. You were Nakama, Mirai Lucy. You were my family. As she says this, steam began to rise out of her body. You're going to pay for this. The steam soon disappeared as a spiral of dark violet energy swirled around her as she continued to tremble in rage. Wendy raised her head as her dark whisker marks appeared on her cheeks and her eyes were blood red with black slits. I'm gonna kill you. Naruto asked. Need to be strong. Wendy's magical power continued to rise as the spiral of energy began to expand outwards. Rogue slight moved back as he felt the energy was releasing. What is this power? It's so dark and malevolent. Not like the eclipse or even my own. It feels even darker than what Natsu was releasing. It's so vile and repulsive that it fills me with dread. The spiral began to converge at the top as it formed the head of a large fox with rabbit-like ears, razor-sharp teeth with blood-red eyes glared down at future Rogue. Below with Wendy, her hair began to take a darker shade of blue as steam erupted from her wounds as they slowly closed and disappeared. High-speed generation. What is this girl? Wendy turned as she glared at Rogue with every ounce of hatred she could muster. Her hands and feet began to gain claws as her teeth became sharp as fangs and a purple aura began to bubble out of her body and envelop her form. Her magical energy continues to rise. It's off the charts. Rogue thought before he stopped as he heard chuckling. He turned to see the source was Natsu. What's so funny? You're so screwed. You're about to feel Wendy's true power when she gets angry. The power she inherited from her father. Let's see you handle this. Rogue turned to see the transformation had nearly completed as the aura had covered her entire form like a cloak and took the shape of a fox with a pair of wings on her back. The most noticeable thing was the dragon symbol on her chest. Ready dark. Wendy growled in her head. Ready when you are. Now raise some hell. Sky Dragon Queen mode. Wendy and Dark roared as the excess energy ripped out of her body. Rogue covered his eye from the sheer force of power Wendy was releasing. He looked to find Wendy had disappeared. His eye widens as he felt a fierce right hook connecting with his face and sent him flying back. Rogue skidded across the ground for several feet before he managed to stop himself. He looked up to see Wendy already above him to launch another attack at him. Rogue dips into his shadow as Wendy's cloaked fist shatters the ground he was standing on. Wendy growled as she saw that her prey disappeared again. She was getting sick and tired of this game of cat and mouse. Future Rogue quickly rose behind her as he tried grabbing her ankle. However, this was a mistake as he reeled his arm back as he looked to see the skin on his hand burned off as he slowly healed them with his White Slayer magic. Wendy quickly turned and slashed at Rogue's unguarded chest. Rogue jumped back, but Wendy still managed to be cut as he felt the burning sensations from Wendy's cloak. Wendy lifted her arm as the cloak extended forward in the shape of her arm and grabbed Rogue's leg and dragged him back. You're not going anywhere, except for a one-way ticket straight to hell. Wendy roared as she raised her other arm as magical energy began to gather into a familiar sphere with an additional violet sphere covering it. You think I'll let you hit me with that without fighting back? Foolish naivety. Future Rogue shouted as he gathered white and shadow magic into the palm of his hands. Tenryu no Kyubi Rasengan, Sky Dragon's nine-tailed spiraling sphere. Unison Raid. Holy Shadow Dragon Fang Flash. Kaboom! A massive explosion erupted from the collision of the power attacks as shockwaves once more ripped across the hall. The explosion was so large compared to the previous ones that it caused several parts of the ceiling to collapse below. Wendy and Natsu got sent flying into the ground near future Lucis' corpse. Wendy and Natsu groaned as they slowly got back. Wendy was still in her cloak as she got her bearings on her surroundings. What happened? You were wailing on that emo bastard and your attacks collided and causing a massive explosion. I can still feel my ears ringing from the explosion. I would advise ending this soon. As I doubt the hallway will last any longer. Wendy looked up to confirm her partner's concern. The ceiling above them was cracked in several areas with several chunks gone. She could see that the entire area was slightly shaking with small pieces of debris falling around them. She needed to hurry up. Hi. She glared forward as she saw the silhouette of her opponent. Future Rogue came out with only minor scrapes and injuries, with the biggest injuries are the burns around his arms. However, the arms were covered in a pale light as the burns slowly disappeared. Future Rogue tried out his arms once they were healed. He then looked up and gave Wendy his annoying smirk again. I must say, you have truly surpassed my expectations, Wendy Marvell. I will admit that I have been underestimating your capabilities. I never expected the youngest of the Slayers to possess such a dark and vile power. A power that reminds me of Zerf. I wonder where your father got it from. Wendy growled at the remark as cloak boiled with Natsu getting up and igniting his fists. You're not going anywhere, Rogue, Natsu swore. We shall see. But first I must ask. Rogue said as she showed a familiar necklace. What do you make of this? Wendy's eyes widened as she looked down to see her necklace was missing. Natsu and Rogue had to cover their eyes as Wendy began to release more of her dark power with the cloak boiling even more like boiling water in a pot. Give that back before I rip out your intestines and strangle you with them. Rogue chuckled. Oh, now that's a threat. Let's see you go through with it. Rogue mocked as he crushed the necklace. Wendy felt her body freeze at what Rogue just did. One of the few permanent gifts from her father. One of the few things that connected her to him was now gone. All for this bastard's sick pleasure. Wendy let a monstrous roar as dark violet shockwaves erupted from her body. You bastard! She roared as she lunged at future Rogue with Natsu not too far behind. Meanwhile at the eclipse gate. We must finish our preparations for the dragon invasion. Akame-chan. Kurome-chan. Remain near me at all times. Hisui ordered. Hi, Hime-sama. Replied her two personal guards. The gate will finally be opened. Darden thought. Let us all watch over Hisui Himes will until the very end. Watch over us Arcadios. Have there been any sightings of dragons approaching the capital? Najinda asked one of her reporting officers. No ma'am. There have no sightings from the east, west, south, or north. The soldier replied. How are the evacuations? She inquired. They are going smoothly, ma'am. We nearly have all civilians evacuated and moved into the safety shelters outside the city borders. Hisui sighed as she looked at the gate in front of her. I truly hope we can settle this with one blast. It would take years to refill the eclipse gate again with magical power. A few feet away from her and the gate, the fairy tale rescue team was watching from behind a few bushes and shrubs. The only one missing was Loku left to avoid his magic being absorbed by the gate. We ended up right at the eclipse gate, Lucy muttered. The rest were watching the rallying of the troops as they prepare for the 0 hour. Mira looked at the additional company of the Garo Knights as they continued to look on in silence. How are you guys? She asked. Battered. But we can manage. Kama answered. Never thought we would be saved by criminals. Kamika said in an annoyed tone. How humiliating. Cosmos sighed in a semi-depressed tone. Oh, don't worry so much. Now that we've kicked your ass, we can now hang out and party together. Happy cheerfully exclaimed. The three Garo Knights looked at the Exceed as if he grew an extra pair of wings and heads. Where the hell did you get that idea? Kamika asked in an incredulous tone. Oh come on. A good portion of our enemies become our allies. Happy replied with the other senior members of Fairy Tail nodding in agreement. He's not wrong. Mira happily agreed with the knights and Yukino looking at the rest with sweat drops. You can come out now, Darden asked as he looked at the bushes the team was hiding in. The group flinched before emerging from their seclusion. The Garo Knights. Wait, why are they missing 2 members? I wonder what happened. Lucy-san. Yukino-san. Hisui said as she walked up to the Stellar Mages. I want to apologize for all the trouble I have caused you. I promise to give you a proper apology once this is all over. Also congratulations on winning the Grand Magic Games. Winning. The Fairy Tail Mages exclaimed in shock. That shock quickly turned to giant grins as they cheered at their guild's victory. Why exactly are you here? Hisui asked in a curious tone. She expected them to have gone to meet up with the rest of the guild. So are they still here? To make sure the gate is opened. Tell me, why are you opening the gate now if no dragons have appeared yet? Lucy asked as she stared at the princess. Simply put, it takes time to prepare and open the gate. If we waited until the dragons appeared, we wouldn't make it in time. Can this eclipse cannon defeat 10,000 dragons? Hisui looked down as she bit her lip in contemplation. I can't guarantee anything. That is why my father, His Majesty is preparing for the worst-case scenario. Central Square. I apologize to all you mages that participated in the GMG that wish to celebrate. But this country is endangered and I require your aid. 10,000 dragons. Makarov muttered in shock. Naruto, I understand now why you kept this a secret from everyone else. The question is, will we survive with you on our side? We couldn't do anything to Acnologia. What are we supposed to do against 10,000? Evergreen asked in concern. To be fair, Acnologia is more of a special case than the norm. A nervous listener reasoned. Still 10,000 won't be a walk in the park, Kana replied with a slight slur. So this is what father was warning us about, Urza muttered to herself. She looked up to look for him but frowned when she could not find him. Before she could say anything, she heard someone call her. She turned and smiled at the 2 familiar faces approaching her. Wally. Show. Urza exclaimed happily as she brought the 2 in a tight hug that the 2 equally returned. Long time no see. The 2 said. The 3 released their grip as they looked at one another. You're looking well. Urza complimented. Sorry we didn't meet up earlier, but things have been hectic for the last few days. Urza laughed as she nodded. Yes, and they are going to get even more out of hand. Meanwhile, Anna and Irene were discussing the incoming invasion. So we were right. This does involve the Eclipse Gate. And I asked them to never use the gate again. She sighed in annoyance as she shook her head. Honestly. Irene gave her a small pat on the back with a reassuring smile. Anna returned that smile in gratitude. Anna, shouldn't you talk to the royal family? You are acquainted with them. Irene asked in a curious tone. I doubt they would listen to me as they seem pretty adamant on opening the gate, Anna replied. Irene frowned at an unpleasant thought came up. You don't think? Possibly, but we will have to wait and see. And if the worst happens? Irene asked as Anna gazed at her as her eyes burned with determination. Then we fight. Before Irene reply, they turned to see their guild approaching them with Quattro Cerberus by their side. Anna-sama. Irene-sama. Kagura began, we are all ready to fight. She declared proudly. Wild, yeah. The members of Quattro Cerberus and Mermaid Heel cheered enthusiastically in agreement. Anna and Irene couldn't help but giggle a bit. Looks like the two guilds are getting along nicely. Just remember. We're the sexy ones. Arana teased. Anna-sama. Irene-sama. Sela spoke up as she approached her two mistresses. Have you heard from Naruto-sama? She asked in concerned tone. She had not seen him near his wives and he has not been seen since the end of the GMG. Sadly, both Anna and Irene shook their heads. Not yet, Irene answered. Sela dropped her head as she was concerned where Naruto could be. Irene and Anna noticed Sela's mood and both brought the horned girl into a comforting hug. Don't worry. I am sure we'll see him very soon. Anna assured as Sela nodded as she enjoyed the warm embrace. Dragons, Sting muttered. It's only fitting we get involved, Rogue replied. Fro believes in you all. Where is the lady? Rufus asked Orga. The lightning slayer scoffed. What do I look like? Her keeper. As if you would ever get that right. A familiar voice called out. The members of Sabretooth turned to see their missing members along with their new master. Master Dobengal. Lady Minerva. All the guilds joining forces. Ren began. What beautiful perfume. Ichia finished. A battle of mythical proportions. The members of Blue Pegasus exclaimed in unison. It's been a long time since we last worked together, Leon said to Gray. Just don't slow me down, Gray replied with a smirk. Funny, I was going to say the same. Leon countered with a smirk. Where is Wendy-chan? Is she okay? Sharia said as she looked around to find her fellow Sky Mage. Juvia patted her on the shoulder. Yes, Wendy is okay. Don't worry, I am sure you'll see her soon. Hi. Sharia cheered with a slight blush. Juvia went stiff as she felt a jolt go up to her spine. My love senses are tingling. She mentally exclaimed. I know this a lot to ask, but we can't defeat these dragons alone. Canon or not. The King of Fury stated as he bowed his head to all the mages in the square. Please, magic guilds, cooperate with us. I ask for your power to fight these dragons. Help me save our country. Of course. Leave it to us. We won't these monsters destroy our home. This country that developed with magic is our home. Tears welled up in the king's eyes again as he bowed in gratitude. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kabu. Huh. Shouted nearly everyone in the square as they comically stared at the king. Cliffside near the square. What a mess, Dorenbold muttered in exasperation. All these wizards in one location. Eclipse Gate. Lahar began, its existence alone conflicts with at least 30 different laws. He soon began to rub his temples at the migraine he felt rising. He quickly turned to his partner. We need to contact the Magic Council. Lahar. Dorenbold. The two whirled around to see a familiar escaped mage standing before them. Jellal. The two shouted in shock before quickly getting on guard. Why are you? Dorenbolt demanded with an edge, but Jellal was not fazed. However, before he could speak another person made their presence. Relax you, idiots. The three turned to see a familiar blonde mage appearing out of a dark portal. Naruto, Jellal said as the three continued to look at the new arrival. Naruto rolled his eyes as he gave Jellal a hand gesture. Go on. Jellal nodded as he turned his attention back to the two councilmen. I need a favor from you two, Jellal stated. Lahar and Dorenbold looked at one another before anxiously looking back at the stellar mage. What do you want? Lahar asked. Jellal sighed as he spoke. We need you to bring the Oracion cease here. What? The two councilmen shouted in shock. Are you insane? Why would you? Lahar began before he was interrupted by Jellal. We are going to have 10,000 dragons here. We are going to need all the dragon slayers we can get. Not to mention the Oracion are powerful allies to help increase our forces. Not to mention Cobra would probably be more willing to listen if you have his allies with him as well. You could also ignore us and let the country burn to the ground, Naruto interjected with a shrug. Your choice. Lahar and Doranbolt glared at the two annoyance before finally sighing in defeat. Fine. Naruto was about to say something, but he was cut off as he clutched his chest in pain. Gah! He grunted as he leaned down from the pain he was feeling. Naruto. What's wrong? Jellal asked in concern. He knew that if anyone was going to survive this night, they needed Naruto. So seeing him in pain was a serious damper to his hopes. I felt a sharp pain to my heart. Something is wrong. I can feel it in my bones. It's like. Naruto's eyes widen in horrific realization. Anna. Naruto quickly stood up as he summoned a portal to his wife. The three mages were left in confusion but shook it off to focus at the task at hand. Anna. Naruto called out as he came out of his portal. As he feared, his wife was also clutching her chest in pain as well. Naruto. Irene called her husband as he approached the two. Is she okay? He asks in concern, but Irene simply bites her lip. I don't know. She was normal just a second ago before doubling over and holding her chest in pain. Naruto, did you? Naruto nodded. Feel the same pain? Yeah. Naruto grabbed Anna's shoulders as he brought her close to him and allowed her to relax in his warm embrace. Anna, he said softly. Anna took a shuddering breath as she calmed herself from the pain she felt. She looked up at her husband with a pained expression as tears welled up in her eyes. Naruto, something is wrong. I can feel it in my bones. Something has happened to the girls. Please go to them. Naruto nodded. I promise I will get them, Naruto stated as he summoned a dark portal. Please be careful. Anna pleaded as she gave him a quick peck on the lips, followed by Irene. I will, Naruto promised as he jumped into the portal. Eclipse gate. Look at that. The moon is turning red. An eclipse. The same day your dragons disappeared. Now it's the day the dragons will reappear. It's midnight. Open the gate. Hisui ordered. The gate is finally opening. Lucy muttered as she looked at the large doors opening. Back with Natsu and Wendy. What's going on? Wendy asked as she looked around to see the entire hallway shaking. What's that noise? Natsu wondered. Future Rogue gave a victorious smirk. The gate has finally been opened. Still, that girl will find a way to intervene and close the door. Shut the hell up. Wendy roared as she prepared her next attack. Lucy would never do that. That's right. Lucy would never crush everyone else's future. Natsu declared as fire and lightning was inhaled into his opened his jaws. Future Rogue scoffed. HMPH. Not like either of you can stop me. He began to inhale to launch a roar attack but paused when several glass orbs appeared around him. Flash forward. A familiar voice shouted as the orbs shot forward and attacked Future Rogue from every direction he was surrounded in. The two mages turned to see two familiar faces. Ultir. Merity. Natsu called out in surprise. The two ladies of crime sorcière smiled at the two before refocusing on the dust cloud where Rogue was standing. Unfortunately, when the smoke cleared, Future Rogue was gone. Wait, where is he? Merity asked in confusion, but Natsu and Wendy growled in rage. That bastard escaped. They gritted out. Ultir and Merity looked worried and wondered how they could calm their allies down. Fortunately, their salvation came from just behind them. That's not important at the moment. Wendy's and Natsu's eyes widen as they finally managed to calm down a bit. The two turned to see Naruto coming out a portal. Daddy, Wendy said in her normal voice as her features returned to their original form. Naruto quickly walked up to the two as he patted them on their shoulders. Are you two okay? He asked. Yes, but. Natsu began before looking back at the corpse of Mirai Lucy. Wendy looked down as she clenched her fists in anger. Naruto looked up to the corpse of the older stellar mage as a frown appeared on his face. I see, he said softly. We need to go after him. Natsu declared, but Naruto shook his head. Not now. Before Natsu and Wendy could argue, he raised his hand to stop their retorts. I know how you feel, but I need you two to head outside with everyone else. The gate is being opened. Kiraja. Naruto called as both slayers were enveloped in green auras as their wounds were healed and their magical reserves were restored. Natsu tries his healed body as he gives Naruto a nod in gratitude. Thanks. Now to go after that bastard. Natsu said as he went through the portal as it closed again. Naruto and Wendy looked at one another in silence. He was about to speak, but Wendy spoke up first. Sorry. Naruto blinked at this. Why was she apologizing? Before he could ask, Wendy answered his unspoken question. For losing the necklace. Naruto's eyes soften as he brings Wendy into a soft hug. Wendy, it's okay. I'm just glad you're okay. I still lost the gift you gave me. Wendy retorted back. Naruto sighed in exasperation. Don't worry so much, Wendy. I swear you are like Hinata. Wendy couldn't help, but let out a small, but soft giggle. Thanks. Naruto let go of the hug as he opened another portal for Wendy. This portal will take you to the gate. I want you to protect your sister and everyone else there for what is coming. Are you ready? Wendy nodded but frowned in thought as she remembered her realization about the dragons. Naruto noticed Wendy's hesitation as he asked, what's wrong? Wendy looked up with a conflicted look in her eyes. About Grandini. She began, but Naruto stopped her. Wendy, I promise I'll tell you once this is over. I promised you, remember? Wendy smiled as she went into the portal as it closed. Naruto turned to Ultir and Merity. You guys should head out too. What about? Merity began in hesitation as she gestured to the corpse of Mirai Lucy. Naruto took a deep breath and sighed slowly. I'll handle it. Just give me a few minutes. Neither argued as they saw look in Naruto's eyes. Alright. See you soon, Naruto. Ultir said as she and Merity teleported out of the hallway. Naruto walked over to Mirai Lucy as he bent down and waved his hand around the corpse. Suddenly several Ethernano particles began appearing as they converged in front of Naruto in a semi-large sphere. Naruto's eyes glowed white as he clasped the sphere into his hands and witnessed the last memories of Mirai Lucy. Fairy Tale Ost. Past story. Everyone. Where are you? Someone help me. Natsu. Ga. Lucy screamed in pain as arm was enveloped in flames. It's gone. My guild mark is gone. Gomen Natsu. Lucy cried out as her arm turned to dust and all that was left was a stump. A reminder of what she had lost. It's up to you, Lucy. You can stop all this. Go, Lucy. Levi. I'm glad I got to see you one last time. Protect the future. Naruto's eyes closed as he looked down as the dead visage of Mirai Lucy. Tears fell onto her cold cheeks as they flowed down from Naruto's eyes and cheeks. You have been through so much. I am sorry that I couldn't save you from all this suffering, Lucy. I'm so sorry, Layla. I failed you. But I promise you, I will not fail this time. Naruto promised in a resolute tone. He waved his hand as Mirai Lucy was enveloped in a cocoon of darkness before disappearing. Naruto dried his eyes as his body was covered in a blue and black magical aura. Naruto glared up at the ceiling as it trembled from the opening of the eclipse gate. This means war. And war requires armor. Naruto stated as he was covered in a cocoon of darkness. Eclipse gate. Everyone. Wendy called as she came out of the portal. Wendy. Everyone cried in surprise and joy. Carla immediately dashed towards her partner and gave her a tight hug. Wendy smiles as she pats her back as she whispers that she is okay. Are you okay? And where is Natsu? Mira asked as she saw no scene of the fire mage. Yeah, Dad healed me so I am completely fresh. Natsu went ahead of me. So he should be somewhere around. Wendy explained as she looks up as the doors of the gate are completely opened. The opening is covered in a brilliant flash of light and releasing an incredible amount of magical energy. So this is the eclipse gate when it's opened. Wendy wondered out loud. It's incredible. I'm shivering over here. Can't say I blame you. We might be able to beat the dragons with this. So much power being released from a single location. We did it. We can now save our country. It's still too early to celebrate, Wendy said as she looked to Lucy and got concerned when she got a glazed look in her eyes. Lucy. She asked in concern. Lucy did not respond as she continues to look at the gate with that same blank look in her eyes. Before Wendy could speak again, Lucy began walking forward to the gate. We need to close the gate. What? She screamed in shock as everyone looked at the two in confusion. Lucy shook her head as her eyes returned to normal as she rushed to the princess. Hisui Haim, you need to stop this. You need to close the gate. Lucy, what are you talking about? Literally everyone in the vicinity shouted. Did our sister lose a few screws in her head? Wendy could hardly argue with Dark's thought. Just what the hell was Lucy thinking? You can't. This is the only weapon we have against the dragons. If we close it now then we are doomed. Hisui argued as she frowned at Lucy. Akame, Kurome, and Najinda huddled around Hisui and Lucy in case the stellar mage tried anything. You're not understanding. This thing was a mistake. The person from the future knew this would happen. Hisui and several others looked at Lucy in confusion. What do you mean? I received this information from my spirit, Crux. This thing currently connected to 400 years in the past. Lucy exclaimed as everyone became wide-eyed, but before anyone could react. Boom. What the hell? What was that? Boom. Oh, no. Lucy paled. Haim-sama. Najinda cried as she helped Hisui back onto her feet. I'm fine. Boom. A large silhouette could be seen coming out of the gate. No way. A soldier stuttered out. Why you have got to be kidding me. A fearful Happy got out. Boom. Shit has truly hit the fan now, Wendy said as sweat came down her face. A dark silhouette's shape was now frightening to everyone in the surrounding area. It was a large quadrupedal creature around 70 meters with a set of large wings. It was extremely muscular creature covered in large, thick, swirl-patterned scales all over its body, except for its underbelly that was covered in porous holes. Finally, the creature had jagged markings around its mouth and snout. The creature was a dragon. A dragon came out of the gate. Nearly everyone exclaimed. The dragon let out a bellowing roar that was so loud and powerful that it caused sonic shockwaves to ripple across the area. Several soldiers and the mages were sent flying from the sheer force of the roar. The shockwaves of the roar even ripped apart the very ground the dragon was standing on. What was that? I don't know. Back at the gate, the dragon rose its right paw before slamming it back down. A massive shockwave rippled from the collision and sailed through the ground and continued going into the city for miles as it ripped apart the area around the shockwave. What the hell was that? Gray wondered. It came from the castle, Leone replied. I have a bad feeling about this, Urza stated as her body tensed at what she was feeling. This power, Makarov said as his fist clenched. How are we supposed to fight this? Happy asked out loud. Damn. This can't get worse. Carla muttered to herself. Boom. Look. Another one is coming out. Just as the soldier shouted, several dragons began walking out the gate as they took into the sky. Every minute, a new dragon came out of the gate and took its place in the night sky. She just had to jinx it. Wendy felt her eye twitch at Dark's antics. You just had to say it. Carla could do nothing but bow her head in embarrassment. Hisui fell to her knees as tears welled up in her eyes. What have I done? She asked herself. It's not your fault, princess. Najinda tried to reassure Hisui with Akame and Kurome trying to help her. My country will be remembered for spilling the blood of the innocent. Lucy got in front of Hisui as she grabbed her by the shoulders. Hisui. Listen to me. I need you to talk to me. My fault, Hisui mumbled again. Damn, Lucy swore as she gave a determined glare. Sorry about this, Lucy said as she reared her arm back. Slap. Wake up. Lucy shouted right into Hisui's face. Hisui flinched from the sting of the slap as she blinked a few times. Lucy. Hisui finally got out as she got her bearings again. How do you Kino and I close the gate? Lucy quickly asked. Hisui turned to the gate as dragons continued to come out. She turned back to the blonde stellar mage. Use the zodiac keys. Lucy nodded in gratitude as she got to her feet. Yukino. Lucy called as she began running to the gate. On it. Yukino replied as she ran forward to catch up to Lucy. However, another dragon came out and let out a roar that sent the girls flying back. Kya. The two stellar mages cried. I got you. Wendy shouted as she caught Lucy while Mira caught Yukino. You're safe. Thank you, guys. Lucy replied with Yukino also nodding in gratitude. Thank us later. You need to close the gate. Wendy said as the two mages nodded as they got up again to walk to the gate again. While this was going on, Every mage became tense as a large number of dragons began appearing in the night sky. Everyone was getting nervous at the prospect of fighting so many dragons at the same time, despite their assurance to their king. Buildings shuddered before crumbling as the roars of the dragons tore through the sky and everything around. And it did not stop. As time went on, more and more dragons came out into the gate and filled the night skies as dark obstructions that blackened the night sky. Suddenly, without any warning, lightning began flying in the sky as it became enveloped in dark clouds. What's going on? Several of the mages shouted in shock as they looked up at the skies. Anna and Irene narrowed their eyes. This huge magical energy enveloping the area wasn't from the dragons. This was something else. Or rather someone. They both turned to one another and nodded as they reached the same conclusion on who was causing this storm. Several of the other high-ranking mages could feel the unnatural feel of the storm. Their teeth rattled, chills fell down their spines, and their bodies shivered from the power they were feeling from the storm. The heavens have grown restless. No doubt something has been disturbed. Jura muttered. I do not doubt it, Gildarts replied. Yet it feels so familiar. It's him. It would seem he is done playing around, Makarov muttered to himself. Then this party is going to start, Laxus said with a smirk. Ready, Yukino? Lucy asked. Yukino nodded. Hi. The two held their hands together with their foreheads leaning on the other. O celestial spirits of the 12 golden paths, the two chanted in unison. Lend me the power to seal this evil. Open. 12 gates of the zodiac. A giant magic circle appeared below the two stellar mages as the zodiac keys floated around the two girls before glowing a beautiful golden light. 12 lights shoot of the keys as the 12 zodiacs appeared from their gates, from Loke to Aquarius. No words needed to be spoken by the spirits and their mages as they knew the situation and what was required of them. Immediately the 12 simultaneously dashed toward the open doors of the eclipse gate. 6 spirits took one side of the two doors and began pumping their celestial magic into the doors as they tried closing the gate. However, that proved easier said than done as the door refused to budge. Suddenly a giant silhouette flew out of the gate and into the skies. The spirits quickly went back to trying to close the door before anything else could come out. Unfortunately, luck was not on their sides as another dragon tried flying out, but slammed into the doors of the eclipse gate. The closing of the gate now became a tug of war between the spirits trying to close the gate and the dragon trying to get out. Are you fucking kidding me? Lucy exclaimed in exasperation. Damn it, it won't budge any further. Loke shouted in annoyance. These dragons are trying my patience. The female Pisces muttered to herself. See, mon you idiots. Put your backs to it. We can do this. Aquarius shouted to her fellow celestial spirits. Is this the end? Several soldiers muttered as they helplessly saw a dragon trying to get out of the gate. Then without any warning lightning crackled around the night sky, which got everyone's attention. Just as the dragon was getting out of the gate, a massive lightning bolt flew downwards and struck the dragon with a large boom. Everyone looked on in shock as the dragon's head was obliterated with ease as it fell back into the gate, and the celestial spirits took the opportunity to finally close the gate before disappearing in a flash of gold. Most of the men wanted to celebrate the closing of the gate, but the dragons in the air and the unexpected death of the dragon gave them to pause from doing so. Soldiers. Yes, Lady Najanda. One soldier called as he saluted his commanding officer. How many dragons came out of the gate? Najanda demanded. Sweat poured down the soldier's head as he gulped a few times before answering. Around 157, ma'am. Najanda gritted her teeth as she looked at all the dragons that came out of the gate. While 157 was more manageable than 10,000, that did not make this any easier for everyone. The general was forced out of her thoughts when she heard a loud boom. The explosion drowned the entire area in silence as everyone turned to the eastern side of the city. Everyone felt the hairs on the back of their heads rise as they saw a huge dark mist heading towards them at incredible speeds. What is that? One soldier asked. Hang on, I see something in the mist. It looks like a person. Another soldier replied. Who the hell could be in that thing? It's my dad. Wendy exclaimed in a cheerful tone. What? Literally everyone shouted. The mist landed a few feet from everyone as it all converged into the person that created the mist. When it all cleared, everyone was shocked to see that Naruto indeed was the one standing before them, but his attire was different. He was wearing a suit of armor. The armor was black-scaled platinum with the design of a red dragon on the front. The two shoulder guards had the heads of dragons carved into them while he had his waist covered with the tail of the dragon covering them. His eyes practically glowed with power as he made his way towards the gate as lightning continued to strike his form as it illuminates one giant cumulus clouds in the sky that were in the shape of a dragon head with its maw open wide as if to devour them. Everyone continued to watch in complete awe and fear of the Dragonslayer King. Whoa. Holy shit. To-san, you came. Wendy cheered as he gave Naruto a tight hug. Naruto chuckled as he returned the hug. "Of course, my dear. I promised you that I will make sure you and everyone will live to see the next sunrise, didn't I? Lucy Hairphilia. Yukino Aguria. You two just had to meddle in affairs that you had no business butting into." Everyone turned to see future Rogue coming out of the shadows. Wendy growled at the sight of the one that murdered her sister. "You." Wendy was about to lunge at him, but Naruto held her down from doing anything rash. "Let me go. This bastard needs to die. For what he did to Mirai Lucy." But one look from Naruto told her to restrain herself for now. "That's the man that told me about the future," Hisui commented. Najanda's eye narrowed. "So you're the one that tricked the princess?" Future Rogue scoffed. Not my fault that she and her family were so easy to manipulate." Akame and Kurome stiffened as they reached for their blades. "Bastard. Kill. Though I must be thanking you all." Rogue mocked with a smile. Everyone became apprehensive about that. "What do you mean?" Mira asked. "I mean that 10,000 dragons would have been a nightmare to control, but over 100 is much more manageable." "Control." Several people muttered as Naruto's eyes narrowed towards the future Shadow Slayer. Lucis' eyes widened in recognition. This was your plan all along, wasn't it?" Future Rogue smirked. "That's right." He then turned his attention to Naruto. "I never thought I would meet you in person, Naruto Marvel. In my time, you never appeared again. You simply disappeared from the history books." Naruto grunted. "Yeah, well, that was your time and this is now. I chose to stay. And I choose to fight. Fate. Destiny. I choose them and no one else dictates my actions." Everyone stopped as they heard a very loud screech. It was so loud that every mage and dragon turned to the source of the noise and no one could believe what they were seeing. The creature that emitted the screech was around 100 meters, and easily dwarfing any of the other dragons in the air with it. The creature was covered in golden yellow scales every inch of its body. It had no arms and instead had two large bat-like wings with a wingspan that was easily 150 meters, which would make sense to be able to maintain such a huge body. However, what got everyone's attention were the three serpentine necks connected to the top of the body with three dragon heads at the end of the long necks with a pair of horns on top of their heads. Golden lightning began to dance around its body before it let out another bellowing screech. The screech was so loud and powerful that sonic and electrical shockwaves sent everyone except Naruto, Irene, Anna, and Future Rogue to the ground and destroyed several buildings that were near the golden monstrosity. Everyone got back up as they looked on in abject horror at the monster's incredible power. "What is that? Is that a dragon? Since when did they have three heads? That thing is. It's strong. I can feel its incredible bloodlust and desire for destruction. That thing is a monster in the truest sense of the word." "This just got a lot harder," Irene said as she glared at the golden monstrosity. "Be careful, Naruto," Anna whispered. "You have got to be kidding me. He's here as well." Naruto growled in anger and annoyance. "Dad, who is that monster?" Wendy asked as she stared up at the monster. "Gidora." Naruto gritted out. "Gidora." Wendy and several others said. Naruto nodded. "That's correct. One of the strongest kaiju dragons to ever be documented." "Kaiju dragon!" everyone exclaimed. Future Rogue let out an ecstatic laugh. "That's right. Normally most kaiju have a unique appearance compared to the other creatures that exist on Earthland. However, there are some exceptions to this. Gidora is one of these. It's one of the few kaiju that can be considered a dragon as well. The best part is that his species is considered one of the strongest kaiju in existence." Future Rogue gave his audience a wide grin. With him here, my plans will go much more smoothly. He raised his arms into the air and bellowed out, "Listen to me, you foolish humans. The age of humanity is over. Instead, I will usher in a new era. An era of dragons. Go and find all the mages around the city and destroy them, and then the world will be ours." All the dragons then flew into different sectors of the capital city. The dragons are listening to him. He said something about controlling. "Wait. Is it a spell?" Lily exclaimed. Future Rogue smirked. "That's right. The secret to controlling dragons. Dragon tamer magic. I have never heard of magic like that." Happy wondered out loud. "That's because it doesn't exist yet. I created it 7 years into the future. I originally planned to use it on Acnologia, but it did not affect him." Naruto snorted. "Of course it wouldn't," he said in annoyance. Naruto turned his attention to Future Rogue. "What do you hope to accomplish from all this?" "To challenge and defeat Acnologia. And with his defeat, I will take my rightful place as the Dragon King." "Big talk, asshole." Naruto and Wendy mocked. Future Rogue jumped onto the paw of the first dragon that appeared out of the gate. "I leave them to you. Zirconis." "Hey, he's the dragon we met in the cave," Happy said. Naruto sighed in annoyance. Another familiar face. "It's here," Nab exclaimed. "This is a dragon." Warren exclaimed, equally in shock and horror. "Its body made completely out of flames," Laxus muttered as he and everyone around him tensed up. "Brace yourselves everyone," Makarov warned. "My name is Atlas Flame. Now humans prepare to taste my hellfire," proudly proclaimed the now named Atlas Flame. "Gah!" Everyone shouted as they were blasted from the heat waves. "Hold strong, brats. Sabretooth, prepare for combat." Dobengal ordered to everyone as a maroon-colored dragon and a blue-scaled dragon with fins landed in front of them. "Let's do this together," Sting exclaimed as everyone launched their attacks on both dragons. However, to their shock and horror, the dragons came out without a scratch. "What? We couldn't even land a scratch." The two dragons then began their assaults on Sabretooth and the other mages around them. "This reminds me of the old days, Anna." Irene joked as she blasted one dragon away. Anna smirked as she summoned her signature weapon, Lambent Light, a rapier. She easily cut the head of one dragon that got too close to her personal space. "You sound like an old woman, Irene," Anna teased. Irene blushed in embarrassment. "Am not. I am just reminiscing a bit." Anna just giggled a bit as she jumped back from a swipe attack as she and Irene were back to back. "Let's reminisce after we survive this night." Irene pouted but did not complain as the two charged against their next targets. "Nothing will be able to stop me. Not even Acnologia can stop me," Future Rogue proclaimed as he flew on top of his dragon. He turned his attention to something standing on the spire on one of the tallest buildings still intact. Or to be more precise, someone. "Natsu Dragneel," Future Rogue muttered. "Kill him, Motherglare." The dragon raised its claw and slammed it into the spire, but Natsu used his fire magic to propel himself from the spire before it was destroyed. Natsu right above Future Rogue as he roared. "Karyu no Hoko." Future Rogue merely fired a dark pulse that cancelled out the fire spell. "Pathetic," Natsu growled at Rogue's mockery as he landed on top of Motherglare. "Look around you. None of the humans are having any luck in fighting the dragons." Natsu looked down to see everyone struggling against the dragons that they were facing. "Is everyone alright?" Makarov called out to his guild members. The other mages groaned as they got back up. "Barely, but yeah," several of the mages replied. You humans survived my initial attack. Are you all wizards?" Atlas asked in a curious tone. "We more than ordinary wizards," Makarov said as he grew into his giant form. "We are connected by our bonds as a family." Makarov tried to hit Atlas with a swift right cross. "Gah!" Makarov grunted in pain as he reeled his arm back from the burns. "Master!" Everyone shouted in concern. "Then I will burn your family bonds along with your bodies." The master's attack didn't work. Atlas Flame snorted. "No matter how strong you are, you're mages that can never match the power of a dragon so long as you remain human." "Damn, he's strong." Sting. "Rogue. Now would be a good time to show us the power you used to kill your dragons." Orga shouted at the two slayers. Sting and Rogue held their heads down. "That's only half true. Sting began. Our dragons were on the brink of death when we killed them. Rogue finished. It doesn't matter. Just start using your magic against them. Dobengal ordered. Never thought a dragon would be so strong at full power. Sting said, but I refuse to let them destroy our friends. Sting went into his dragon force from. Ready Rogue. Rogue turned into his dragon force form. Yeah. Sting nodded as he turned to the dragon in front of him. Then let's go. Blue Pegasus. Try my armpit perfume. Ichiya shouted. Dragons have a strong sense of smell. So this will paralyze it. Unfortunately for you, I have no nose. The stone dragon said. You humans are still the same foolish, yet amusing race even after 400 years. Before the stone dragon could anything, something slammed onto the top of its back. Gah! Move away you idiots! A familiar voice barked out. The Triman's eyes widened. Cobra. But I thought he was in prison. Ren asked in confusion. I got a temporary recess for good behavior, Cobra replied as his arms were coated in poison magic. You did well in such a short amount of time. Lahar complimented Doranbolt as he was heaving heavily from exhaustion. Yeah, I just hope this is enough. The teleport mage sighed as he got back up. I hope we don't get fired after this. Let's worry about that after we get through tonight. Lahar and Doranbolt looked forward with a battalion of rune knights behind them, ready for combat. You did all this to fight Acnologia? Natsu inquired. Future Rogue nodded. And when I defeat him, I will be the new Dragon King. The only king I acknowledge is Naruto. Not you. And not Acnologia. Natsu proclaimed. Future Rogue scoffed. By the end of this, no one will stand in my way. Not even he will stop me. Natsu smirked. You sure about that? Natsu ignited his arm in flames before slamming it into Motherglare with a large boom. Ah! Motherglare roared in pain. What the hell? Several people said as looked at the smoking back of Motherglare in the night sky. Can you all hear me? Natsu shouted to the entire city, how about we stop fooling around and do something about this? Natsu. Lucy exclaimed happily. All right. Happy cheered. There are dragons here and we have 8 dragon slayers on our side. Our magic was created for this day. Now let's go dragon hunting. Hear you loud and clear, Natsu. All of the dragon slayers thought. Future Rogue was not perturbed by Natsu's proclamation. Fools. You only prolong the inevitable. Motherglare. Gra aahhh. Motherglare roared as several objects were fired out of its abdomen. The object landed all over the capital where a dragon was located. What the hell are those? Are those eggs? The eggs shook before they hatched to reveal bipedal dragonoids lunging towards all of the mages. What the hell? They're multiplying. As if the big ones weren't already troublesome, Laxus muttered before turning his attention back to Atlas Flame with Zeke by his side. All of you go and help others. I got the big guy. Grr, Zeke growled as Laxus smirked. Back at you partner. Wait, Laxus. You can't fight alone. Several mages shouted. He won't be. Evergreen began. He has us. Bixlow continued. The Thunder Legion will back up Laxus. Freed finished. But. Did you not hear what Natsu said? Mavis asked as the remaining mages turned to her. Only a slayer can fight a dragon. Gajiel, Urza. Go find another dragon. The rest of you focus on supporting another slayer or fighting the smaller ones. Everyone nodded as they split up into different groups. Urza we'll back you up, Wally said as he and Sho followed Urza. Thanks, she said in gratitude. Suddenly a golden light appeared in front of them. What the? Urza began before she stopped as she saw who was in front of her. Made it in time, Jellal said with 2 companions, Midnight and Richard Potai. Jellal. Midnight. Urza exclaimed in shock. Midnight just smirked. Long time no see. Jellal. Sho and Wally shouted in shock with a small undertone of anger. Jellal looked back at them as several emotions played in their eyes. I know you have some words with me, but let's save that for later. Sho and Wally narrowed their eyes at Jellal before nodding. Brother, how good to see you. Richard exclaimed happily. Everyone nearly face-faulted at the emotional whiplash they felt. Though Wally looked just as happy to see his older brother. Save the waterworks after we're done. Urza barked at the 2. The brothers quickly nodded. Yes ma'am. The two exclaimed. Urza nodded as the group began running again to fight off another dragon. Ready to go, Akiza. Hi. Urza's eyes soon became slits as she once again felt her Dragonslayer magic fill her body. Ready Gray? Leon asked as the two mages and Juvia were about to face an army of dragonoids. I'm always ready. However, before they could attack, a black and red streak knocked several of the hatchlings away. What the? Before they could say anything, a familiar speed mage revealed themselves. Long time no sees, ice strippers. The new arrival snarked. The man's attire consisted of a black skin-tight bodysuit with red lines going down the arms, back, and legs of the suit. The man was Sawyer, otherwise known as Racer. Racer. Gray and Leon shouted in shock. Hey, Juvia. Meredy happily exclaimed. Meredy. Juvia shouted in shock. Leon looked at the new arrival as a small blush formed on his cheeks. Cute. I love to catch up, but we need to focus on this. Racer gestured towards the hatchlings as they began surrounding them again. The group nodded as they turned back on the enemy and charged. Together we are going to beat you, Natsu said fiercely. Future Rogue scoffed. Fool. You know nothing of the true power of a draw. Kaboom. Everyone, mages, and dragons alike paused as they heard a large explosion. They all turned and were shocked to see a dragon with his head destroyed falling to the ground. They all turned to see the source of the attack came from the gate. Whoa. He killed it one blast. Damn, that ruins any entrance I had, said an unknown feminine voice. Everyone turned to see a familiar white-haired stellar mage. Angel. The members of Fairy Tail exclaimed in shock. Serrano nay, Yukino said with a shocked and nostalgic tone. Everyone snapped their head at what Yukino just said. The mages continued to look between the two as their jaws continued to drop to the ground. Hello, little sister. Yukino was about to speak, but Angel raised her arm. I know you what to chat, but we have other pressing matters. Angel turned her attention to Naruto, gazing at the sky as the dragons near the vicinity shook in fear as they continued to stare at Naruto. Are they scared of him? A random soldier asked. Looks like, but why? That was nice speech, Natsu. Naruto's voice boomed throughout the entire capital. That voice. It's Naruto. It's him, Levia muttered. So he's here as well. The Marin dragon, Scissorhead, growled. The king will fight in this battle as well, Atlas said in an excited tone. Of all places for him to be in. The stone dragon said in a grim tone. And you're right about one thing. It's time to stop with these foolish games and get serious. Naruto looked up at Gidora, who glaring down at him as yellow lightning flashed around the kaiju's body. Isn't that right, Gidora? That's why you haven't moved. You were waiting for me, right? Naruto mockingly asked. Gidora growled as it let loose another screeching roar as lightning erupted out of its body. Naruto smirked as he began to laugh uncontrollably. Ku ha 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 ha. I think he's lost it. Naruto gave everyone an excited smirk. At long last my patience has finally been rewarded. Suddenly an enormous magical aura erupted out of his body with a geyser of blue and black magical energy. What is this magical power? Najinda exclaimed as she was nearly blown away from the sheer force of power that Naruto was releasing. It's mind-boggling. Kurome shouted back as she and Akame stabbed their blades into the stone pavement to keep themselves from being sent flying. In the capital, Levi shivered as she felt Naruto's magical pressure that he was releasing. This magic. It feels familiar. Gajil's eyes widened as he remembered where he felt this power from. There's no way. Fairy Tail Ost. Dragon King. I am the black dragon that personifies the apocalypse. Naruto began proclaiming as his body became completely black with his white eyes and mouth being the only visible parts remaining. I mock death, yet envy for its embrace. His voice began changing as a pair of wings and a tail erupted from his body. Blue tribal markings appeared on Naruto's arms, face, back, wings, and tail. I will become the black dragon of the apocalypse that will obliterate everything from existence. Naruto's shape took a familiar quadrupedal appearance as it began to grow in size. My name is Acnologia. I am the Dragon King. Screo Ook. Naruto let out a triumphant roar as he released a massive shockwave to rid himself of his excess energy as he stood at his full dragon height of around 70 meters. Everyone, literally everyone, that did not know Naruto's true identity had their jaws on the ground as their eyes nearly popped their heads. Naruto is Acnologia. We're all doomed. We're all going to die. He's come to eat us. Acnologia turned to see several dragons destroying the city around. He growled as he took a deep breath as the air was sucked into his maw. What's he doing? I don't know, but is it me or are his marks glowing? The tribal markings were indeed glowing as everyone in the vicinity could hear a whirring sound as something was building up. Naruto reared his head back before roaring, Hakai no Hoko. He launched a devastating breath attack that hits a dragon dead in the center from several kilometers away. The blast ripped right through the dragon as Naruto turned his head as the blast traveled horizontally and ripping through any dragon that was unfortunately in its way and causing massive explosions along the way. Naruto made a complete 360 around the entire capital and killing every dragon that was caught in the blast. The explosions caused by the attack caused the capital to be temporarily enclosed in a wall of an inferno. Naruto turned as several dragons flew towards him. Naruto gave a feral grin as he raised his arms as the forearms glowed before transforming into two giant curved blades. Destruction blades. Naruto roared as he cut one dragon in half before bisecting another one with ease. Naruto then tried to slice off the head of a third one, but the dragon managed to catch the blade with its jaws. Another held the other bladed arm as a third dragon tries to attack Naruto on the back, but the dragon was quickly stabbed through the heart by Naruto's stinger tail. Another rushed to strike Naruto's chest, believing him now to be vulnerable. Naruto deactivated his blades and grabbed the two dragons by their throats and crushed their throats in an instant. Naruto's eyes glowed as the frontal dragon was about to strike. Solar flare. The dragon was blinded by a bright flash. The dragon then felt something strong and sharp bite down on his jugular. Try as it might, it could not escape the powerful jaws that held him in place. Crunch. Snap. Squelch. However, any resistance the dragon had ended as Naruto crushed its throat and ripped its jugular into ribbons as its body fell to the ground. Naruto chewed up the muscle tendons and tissue in his maw as blood dripped down his chin. Naruto couldn't help it as monstrous laughter erupted from his throat. Ha 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 ha. Oh, how have I missed this? The blood. Carnage. It has been far too long since I've had this much fun. Come you worthless man-eaters. So I can remind you of WHO as your king. A large herd of the man-eating dragons flew towards Naruto from every direction to overwhelm. Naruto's eyes seemed to gleam in delight as his tribal markings glowed once more and blue electricity dance around his body. Fools! He mocked as Naruto roared, all vanity. Naruto was encased in a dark blue sphere of energy before he fired numerous energy lasers in every direction and striking and killing every dragon that was unfortunate to be caught in its extremely huge range. As the bodies of the numerous dead dragons fell around him, Naruto roared as he released a pulse of energy that disintegrating the corpses of all the dragons near him. Acnologia gave a triumphant roar as he turned towards Motherglare and Gidora. Everyone was left in awe of the destructive capabilities of Acnologia. They knew he was strong, but this was beyond what they had ever expected. Are you fucking kidding me? He just took down over a third of them without breaking a sweat. Damn. That's what I call firepower. Laxus commented. I would expect nothing less from that scally bastard, Gildarts said. Sugoi Tu-san, Urza said. He's incredible. Several people said aloud. His power is more frightening than I could have ever imagined. He's defeated so many on his own. We might just have a chance now. An awe-stricken Najanda spoke. Future Rogue snarled in anger. So Naruto was Acnologia all along, huh? Well, this changes nothing. This is my chance to get rid of him and anyone that may challenge my reign as Dragon King. Motherglare reared its head back before launching his roar attack. A stream of Eternano headed straight towards Naruto. But the Dragon King was not impressed as he smacked the roar with the back of his clawed arm and sent it flying into the sky as it detonated and illuminated the sky for a few seconds. Is that the best you fools got? You'll have to do better than that to hurt me. Naruto mocked as Motherglare growled in outrage that a former human was speaking to him like that. Before Naruto could taunt Motherglare again, he was forced to dodge a yellow lightning bolt. Acnologia looked up to see Gidora sneering down at him. Naruto smirked. Oh, you must itching to fight me, but don't worry Gidora, you'll get your fight. Naruto turned his attention to a specific location on the east side of the capital. Anna. Irene. Acnologia called out to his wives. Don't you think it's time for you two to join me up here? Of course we're joining you. Irene responded as she was enveloped in a dark pink magical aura. Anna smirked. After all, what's a king without? She began. His queens. The two said in unison as Irene turned into her dragon form with Anna riding on top of her head. Kick-ass Anna Samam. Irene Sama. Everyone from Mermaid Heel cheered. Did Irene just turned into a dragon too? What else can happen? Anna, I believe it's time to summon him, Irene said to her co-wife. Anna smiled as she dug into her pockets. Yes, I do believe so. From her pocket, Anna took out a platinum celestial key with a gold crown embezzled on the bottom of the key. Open gate of the cosmos, celestial spirit king. Anna called out as a massive magical sigil appeared in the night sky as a pillar of energy erupted from the seal as it landed onto the ground. From this pillar came the familiar figure of the celestial spirit king. I have come by your call, my old friend. The king said in a regal tone. EHHHHHHHHHHHHHH. The celestial spirit king. She has the key for the king. Lucy exclaimed. Better yet, why does this Anna woman look like Lucy? Several mages shouted, mostly from Fairy Tale. I can't believe it, Yukino said in awe at the sight of the king. Holy shit, Angel muttered. The celestial king turned his attention to Acnologia. It's been a long time, Naruto. That it has been. Are you prepared to fight by my side again, old friend? I have been waiting for 400 years, my comrade. I won't pass it off now. Naruto. Irene called out. I know Irene. Acnologia and Irene raised their claws to the air. Battle enchantment. Dragon's blessing. A massive green magic sigil appeared above the skies as it covered the entire capital. Suddenly every mage in the capital and soldier is enveloped in a green magical aura. What's going on? I feel incredible. Hey, my guild's mark has changed. Mine too. It looks like a dragon now. It feels like my enchantment spells, but much stronger. Listen up mages. I and Irene just cast an enchantment spell that gave all of you Dragonslayer attributes. So in essence, your regular magic can harm a dragon. Seriously. Awesome, we have a chance. Naruto sighed as he focused on Gidora. Now then, just one more thing to do. My sleeping brethren, heed my call. Awaken from your slumber and fight for your king once again. Awaken now, my elemental kings. Naruto roared as unbeknownst to him and the rest, his chest had a green glow before it disappeared again. Gah! Natsu grunted in pain as he fell to his knees, clutching his stomach. What the hell? What's going on? Gajeel hissed in pain. What is this? A kneeling Sting grunted. What's happening to us? Rogue said in a similar position to Rogue. Future Rogue's eyes narrowed in recognition. So that's his game. Natsu looked up at Future Rogue in confusion. What are you? Natsu. A familiar voice spoke. Natsu perked up at the voice. What? The time has come for me to awaken. My king has called for me. I and the others must answer his call. Igneal. What do you mean? Where are you? Natsu frantically said as he looked back and forth, trying to find Igneal. Natsu grunted again as his abdomen began to glow. Gomen Natsu. The truth is. So it's true. You hear the whole time. Wendy whispered. Forgive me, child. I wanted to tell you, but I did not think you were ready yet. But now that no longer matters. Ka-san. An emotional Wendy replied as a sky blue pillar fired out of her body. Grr, Gajeel growled. As stubborn as always. Gajeel's eyes widened. Metallicana, Gajeel muttered as a green and black pillar of energy was released from his body. Sting, it's been a long time. You have grown. As have you, Rogue. Weislegia, Sting muttered as white pillar fired off of his body. Skiadrum. An equally shocked Rogue said as a black and violet beam erupted from his body. From the 5 pillars of lights, 5 dragons came out of them. The very same dragons that had disappeared for 14 years. The same dragons that the 3 Dragonslayers had been searching for and had now been found. Naruto promised them their location and now he has given it to them. Ignal, Metallicana, Grandini, Weislegia, and Skiadrum have now reappeared into the world after disappearing for over 10 years. Everyone looked on in complete shock as they could not believe that another bombshell had been dropped. Damn, that guy knows how to fulfill a promise, Gildarts said with a smirk. My brethren, are you ready? Acnologia asked as his allies roared in agreement. Then my dragons and mages. To arms. Acnologia declared as he charged right into Gidora as the golden kaiju descended towards him. The battle between the dragons and mages had now truly begun. Ha 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 ha. Aren't I lucky dragon? Zirconis bellowed as looked down at all the soldiers and mages surrounding the area. The soldiers were rather intimidated by the hulking beast looming over them. The mages, while anxious, stared back at the dragon defiantly. What's so amusing, Zirconis? Grandini asked. Continued to keep her guard up against her draconian enemy. Oh, isn't it obvious, Grandini? There was no way I could handle fighting Naruto. You are another story entirely. Zirconis replied with a cheeky grin. The sky dragon narrowed her eyes at her enemy. Are you calling me weak? Zirconis shook his head. Of course not. I would be a fool to do so. But let's be honest, if I were to fight Naruto, I would be swiftly killed. But with you, I at least have a chance of staying alive. Before the sky dragon could retort, a loud explosion illuminated the sky above them. The two dragons and the mages who were not distracted by a hatchling of motherglare looked up into the skies above them. Despite the dark heavens above, the group could clearly see two silhouettes battling against one another. Despite the distance, the two dragons could exactly who was fighting in the skies above them. Those two are really going at it, Zirconis murmured as he watched the two dragons go at it. Truthfully, the fight was a stalemate, but he knew that could easily change in an instant. Grandini frowned as she continued to watch the battle above. She was worried about Naruto as Gidora is not an ordinary enemy anyone, even a dragon, could. But she knew he'd find a way to stay on top. He always did. Naruto will prevail against Gidora, Grandini said in a resolute tone. Zirconis looked at the sky dragon with a smug grin. Oh, how nice, you have such faith in your lover boy. He cheekily replied. Grandini's eyes widened before she glared hotly at the Jade Dragon. Damn it. I am not in love with Naruto. She roared, which would have been intimidating, if not for the red blush she was sporting. That reaction says otherwise. An amused Wendy replied. Grandini turned to her surrogate daughter in shock. Et tu, Wendy? A betrayed Grandini wailed. Wendy shrugged her shoulders. Come on, I'm sure he wouldn't mind you. And neither Ka-chan or Auntie will be against it. Grandini dropped her head in defeat. I won't be hearing the end of this, will I? After living in my body for years and not telling me. Call this a bit of payback. Wendy retorted with a cheeky smile. Ha 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 ha. Dark was rolling around on the ground at all the teasing getting thrown at their mother on both sides. Oh, teasing their mother is going to be fun once this is all over. Grandini sighed before glaring at the smirking face of Zirconis. Fine. She growled. Let's just take down these pests. Wendy nodded as she summoned her blades. Hi, Ka-san. Perhaps I will get to use my magic, Zirconis muttered as he stroked his whiskers. You will fall to us, dragon. One brave soldier cried. The Jade Dragon turned his attention to the unfortunate fool. Oh. Aren't you confident, humans? Zirconis smirked. Let's see you handle this. The Jade Dragon reared its head back and fired off a beam of green magical energy. Watch out. Murajan shouted as the mages all jumped out of the way. The soldiers, the majority being male, were not as quick and enveloped in the blast as the area was covered in a thick cloud of smoke. Is everyone okay? Najanda called out. Yes. But something is wrong. All of the fairy tale mages, Akame, Kurome, Najanda, Hisui, Yukino, Angel, and the Garo Knights look completely stunned as all the male kingdom knights are completely naked. What? Wendy began. Lucy continued. Fuck. Everyone with attire exclaimed in unison. Human clothes aren't really that appetizing. So I prefer to get rid of them before feasting upon your flesh. Zirconis said. Screw this. We're out of here. Talk about embarrassing. What a rather sad sight. A slightly flustered Mira said. What a bunch of wimps, Najanda muttered. Can't say I blame them, Akame whispered with Karome nodding. Neither can I. Lucy looked up at Zirconis. So your magic is to get rid of clothes? She asked in confusion. Zirconis smirked as it spits a small orb of magical energy at Lucy. The moment that the orb landed, Lucy's clothes were completely destroyed. Ah! Lucy screamed as she covered herself. Lucy! The fairy mages shouted. Why am always losing my clothes? Lucy shrieked in anger and embarrassment. Wendy had to sweat drop. The truth was clear as day. Her sister was a closet exhibitionist. Is this going to be a running theme with our sister? She wondered. Probably. Dark replied in amusement as Wendy's sweat drop became bigger. Ha 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 ha. Women are always the tastiest humans to eat. Zirconis exclaimed as he gave everyone, especially the female mages, a hungry smile. So this is your magic? Wendy asked. Zirconis smirked at the Sky Slayer. That's right. My magic is to take away a human's dignity. Then, Wendy began as she gave him a determined glare. My magic is to take you down. She exclaimed as she began reaching her magical power. Zirconis glared at Wendy. Her boasts annoyed him and her magical power did not impress him one bit. It reminded him of those slayers from 400 years ago. Though considering who her father was, he shouldn't be surprised. It was time to put this girl in her place. Conceited little bitch. Zirconis roared as the ground beneath him quaked and crackled under the vibrations of his voice. Zirconis reared his arm to attack, but he was interrupted by a tail slap to his cheek. Zirconis was stunned for a moment before glaring at the offending appendage of Grandini as she glared back at him. My daughter is no bitch, you bastard. She snarled. Yay Vernier. Yay arms. Yay armor. Enchant. Wendy called as all the mages had their power, speed, and defense increased drastically. Virgo appeared next to Lucy as she quickly dressed her in a new attire to wear. Thank you, Virgo. Virgo nodded. Haim-sama, with the power granted to you by the enchantment from Wendy and Naruto, you should be able to summon multiple zodiac spirits. Really? Virgo nodded. Lucy smirked as she quickly took out her other golden keys. Loke, Capricorn, Taurus, Sagittarius, Scorpio. From a golden sigil, Lucy's celestial spirits appeared before. Lucy panted slightly from all the spirits she just summoned. Power boost or not, summoning so many spirits can still take a toll on her reserves. Yukino saw Lucy's actions and decided to mirror them. Libra, Pisces, Ophiuchus, Chilem. Angel shouted. Mira covered herself in a dark violet magical aura. Satan soul, Citri soul, she muttered as she transformed into her strongest Satan soul. Wendy disappeared in a quick blur with her wind step as she appeared behind Zirconis. Tenryu no Hoko. Wendy unleashed a huge torrent of wind that landed directly at the base of Zirconis's neck. Arg! The Jade Dragon grunted in pain from the sky roar. Attack while he's distracted. Mirajan ordered as she jumped into the air and landed a fierce uppercut to Zirconis's chin. Ophiuchus ensnare Zirconis with your body. The large celestial serpent quickly nodded as it quickly slithered to Zirconis and wrapped its body around the Jade Dragon's body. Zirconis glared at the inferior reptile as it began to pull Ophiuchus off, but the celestial snake held on as tightly as possible. Why you filthy snake? Zirconis growled as it was going to swipe the serpent's head with its claw, but Tenryu no Tatsumaki. Two voices cried in unison. Zirconis looked up in time to see two giant tornadoes envelop him as Ophiuchus let go and sent the Jade Dragon slamming into the eclipse gate. Zirconis growled as it released its magical energy and with one beat of its wings, dispelled the two torrents of wind. You know damn well it will take more than that to stop me, Grandini. Grandini narrowed her eyes as she began to release her magical power along with all the mages around her. You won't win, she declared as Zirconis smirked in response. We shall see. Gajil's team. Tetsuryuken. Solid script. Lightning. The two attacks slammed into the chest of the Dark Dragon. However, the attacks left barely any visible damage to its hardened chest. Pathetic. The dragon growled as it opened his maw to launch a roar attack. Only for Metallicana to come in and use his paw to block the attack with ease. The Metal King looked unimpressed by the roar. How amusing, I could call that roar pathetic. Silence Metallicana. The Dark Dragon roared as it lunged forward, but Metallicana held his ground and caught his opponent by his wings. The dark dragon looked completely stunned as it looked at Metallicana's smug grin. Tetsuryu no Hoko. Metallicana launched his signature attack as he hit the dark dragon's chest and sent it flying into one of the few buildings still intact as the debris fell on top of him. Metallicana huffed in satisfaction as he looked at his companions. Gajeel clicked his tongue in annoyance as he looked between his father and the enemy below the debris. All this power and I could barely leave a scratch on that bastard. Metallicana snorted, which caused Gajeel to glare in annoyance. You got something to say, Metal Face. He growled. Metallicana gave his son a smirk. I see you still have that vile look in your eyes as if you just swallowed a lump of rust. Shut the hell up, you bastard. Gajeel retorted in outrage before slashing down at one of the dragon drones. So this is the relationship you have with your foster father? Levi asked with an awkward smile. Gajeel reared back to look at the BlueNet script mage. This bastard has always been a pain in my ass since the moment I met him. He comically responded. The two jumped back to avoid the blasts of several drones. Solid script. Lasers, Tetsuryu no Hoko. The two shouted as a bright beam of energy and a roar of iron shrapnel and shadow destroyed several of the drones that had surrounded them. There are so many of these monsters. Droy complained, and they just keep coming. Jet replied back. Less complaining and more fighting. Gajeel barked at the two as they flinched before going back to fighting more drones. Metallicana hummed as he looked down at Levi. The script mage felt slightly squeamish at the intense gaze of the Iron Dragon. What's with the look, Metal Face? Gajeel demanded. Metallicana gave a smug grin. So this is your chosen mate, Gajeel. Gajeel's eyes nearly popped out of his head while Levi turned a lovely shade of red. What? The two shouted. Mate. What are you talking about? I mean Gajeel and I aren't even actually dating. Levi stammered out as her face became even redder. Metallicana titled his head in amusement. Really? But the brat always has you on his mind. Not to mention all the dreams he's had about you. He teased. Gajeel had a very noticeable blush with Levi going nearly nuclear as steam was pouring out of her body. Are you seriously going to do this now? Gajeel comically exclaimed. Boom. Everyone turned to see the dark dragon coming out of the rubble as it glared at Metallicana and the humans. You will suffer for that, Metallicana. What a stubborn bastard. Reminds of another stubborn brat I know. Screw you. And you have a lot to say about Naruto being Acnologia. That is not my tale to tell, but Naruto's. If you want answers, you'll have to ask him. I will give you answers as to how I ended up sealed in your body. I owe you an explanation for that at least. Fine. Let's beat these bastards and then we can all get answers. Gajeel muttered as he turned to his opponent. Agreed. Everyone said in unison. Laxus's team. Eclipse of Darkness. Zetsue. Lebra Horn. Baryon Dragon Formation. Raryu no Hoko. The four empowered of the Thunder Tribe joined together as they enveloped Atlas Flame in a bright explosion. The group was hoping to have left an injury on the Fire Dragon. However, the Thunder Legion was left in shock as Atlas Flame appeared from the smoke cloud with no visible injuries. Not bad mortals, I actually felt that. Atlas mocked. What the hell? Evergreen exclaimed. We barely did anything to him. Freed asked out loud. Atlas snorted in amusement. Foolish brats. You may have caused some damage, but my body is completely made of flames. Flames from the pits of hell itself. My flames burn your magic. Dragon Slayer magic. Dragon Slayer enchantment. It's all meaningless before my flames. Damn it. Really wish we had a water dragon slayer with us. Well, we have a fire dragon on our side, Bixlo said as he pointed to an approaching dragon. Boom. Atlas Flame was slightly dazed before realizing that something landed above him and slammed him into the ground. This thing was holding him down by the head and back. What the hell? Who dares attack Atlas Flame? I'm hurt, Atlas Flame. Have you forgotten me so easily? A familiar voice joked. Atlas Flame's eyes widened in shock. He knew that voice anywhere. Wait. Are you? He began before flinching as he felt himself get a sudden headache. The dragon above him gave a cocky smirk. Since you're having some difficulty, let me remind you. I am Igneal, the Fire Dragon King. Igneal, Atlas said weakly as he felt his headache flare even worse than before. It really felt like his non-existent flaming head was going to split open. The Thunder tribe looked on in shock as they recognized the name of the fire dragon. Did it just say his name is Igneal? Ever said out loud? Laxus, Bixlo, and Freed merely nodded in muted shock as they continued to look at the flaming dragons. Laxus just continued to look in shock as he never expected to meet this particular dragon under the current circumstances. Igneal continues to hold Atlas Flame down on the ground. What the hell happened to you, Atlas? When did you become so weak that some arrogant brat can take control of you? You were better than that. Better than the brain-dead bastard beneath me. No blood brother of mine would be so susceptible to such idle mind control. Now wake up and show me your pride. Atlas Flame. Atlas roared as it finally got out of Igneal's grip and pushed him back a few feet away. Atlas Flame looked up as the blur around his eyes began to lift as the headache he was having was finally subsiding. Atlas shook his head a few times as he looked to see his vision focus on the fire dragon in front of him. Igneal. Atlas finally said with some uncertainty. The fire dragon king smirked at his old friend. It's about time you come back to your senses, Atlas. Tell me, Atlas, what do you remember? Igneal asked with a raised eyebrow. Atlas frowned as he tried to remember. I remember fighting several dragons, then a portal opened and I was swallowed up. I then remember a voice calling me and everything becomes a red blur. Next thing I know I hear your voice and the blur disappears. Atlas frowned before looking at his blood brother. What happened to me, Igneal? You were being controlled by a mage that has summoned you to the future. 400 years in the future to be exact. Atlas Flame's eyes widened before they narrowed in anger as he roared in outrage. That filthy human dares to control me. He will pay for this insolence. Igneal smirked. Well, I'm glad to see you so fired up. Why don't take that energy and help me fight some of these scaled bastards in the sky? The one who controlled you is with Motherglare. Are you willing to lend me a hand? Not that I don't want to rip both those bastards apart, but why do you need my help in fighting Motherglare? He shouldn't be that hard for you. Atlas's eyes narrowed. Also explain to me why your power is much weaker than it should be. He said in a suspicious tone. Igneal sighed as he looked back. I am not at my best. I only have the last of my reserves left to fight. I was wounded grievously in my last fight and forced into hiding. But I have come to fight for our king. And now I have a chance to fight alongside you, Atlas. So brother, will you fight by my side as we did 400 years ago? You do not need to ask. I will always fight by your side, brother. Atlas proudly proclaimed. The two dragons smirked at one another as they extended their wings as small torrents of wind bellowed around them as the two fire dragons rose into the air. Then as our king proclaimed, old friend. To arms. Atlas Flame instantly flew into towards Motherglare and future rogue. Before Igneal flew off to follow, he turned to Laxus and the others. I apologize for interrupting your fight, but I could not allow my brother to be one of that fool's mindless puppets. You're all Natsu's guildmates, correct? Laxus and the others could only nod in confirmation. There are plenty of other dragons to fight and your other Nakama could use the support. Igneal then turned towards Atlas Flame as he flew towards Motherglare. It's been so long since I have been in a battle like this, Igneal smirked in anticipation. I'm getting fired up. Igneal blitzed into the sky to catch up to Atlas Flame. Whoa. That was a thing. Freed said as the others could only nod again. Laxus continued to look at Igneal as he continued his path towards his opponent. So that's the dragon that Natsu has been looking for, Laxus muttered before a smirk curled on his lips. He certainly leaves an impression. Not bad at all. Laxus then turned to his team. Let's go. We need to go help others. Laxus said as the four dashed towards assisting the other teams. Anna's team. Ha. It's been so long since we've been in a battle like this. How does it feel, Anna? Do you feel the adrenaline pumping through your veins? Irene exclaimed as she bisected another dragon. Anna slashed through several hatchlings before turning to her co-wife lover. Oh, I feel the adrenaline. But I can also feel annoyance bubbling throughout my body. Ah. Anna grunted as she felt a drone slash her shoulder. Anna quickly slashed the drone in half. Grr. Seems we are all out of shape. I can't believe I got hit by a mindless drone. I am pretty sure you're not the only one, Rusty, Anna, Irene replied as she blasted a hole through an enemy dragon's head. Suddenly a very large dragon tried to sneak attack, Irene. However, the dragon had severely underestimated Irene's senses as she quickly turned and pierced the dragon through their heart. It was at this exact moment a blade pierced the dragon's abdomen before bisecting the lower half of the beast. Irene looked up to see the Celestial King giving her a cheeky grin. I appreciate the assistance, Celestial King. I couldn't let my lady's partner be harmed. Not to mention, Naruto would not be too pleased either. No, he wouldn't. Irene giggled as the two heard a large explosion as they turned to see Anna eradicating several of the dragon drones before jumping to avoid a swipe of a maroon-colored dragon. As she jumped into the air, she raised her arms as they were covered in a golden rainbow aura. Shinigiryu no Yokugeki, Celestial Rainbow Dragon's Wing Attack. Anna called as she slammed her arms down as the wing attack decapitated the dragon's head with relative ease. As the carcass landed on a collapsed building, Anna turned to her two companions in annoyed amusement. You know, while I appreciate my partner's spirit and co-wife getting along, Cammy knows I would like to speak with my spirit again, but can you save it for after we survive this invasion? Ah, what's wrong, Anna? Are you jealous of how well we are getting along? Irene teased as Anna felt a vein pop in her head. She raised her blade as it began to charge with her magical power. Irene looked slightly nervous. Anna-chan. Dear, you wouldn't harm your co-wife, right? Anna just smirked as she launched her attack as it sailed right past Irene and the Celestial Spirit King and sliced the top half of another dragon that was about to pounce on them. The two turned to the new carcass before turning back on the stellar mage who gave them a satisfied smirk. Ah, much better. Anna sighed in relief. We let you do that to blow up some steam, Anna. The two said in unison. Anna just gave them an amused smirk. Of course you did. Anna then turned and began fighting another dragon. Irene and the king looked at one another before shrugging their shoulders and beginning the fight with other enemy dragons in the vicinity. Urza's company. Roar. A bellowing roar erupted from a dragon as it sent Urza, Jellal, and Midnight skidding back. They looked up to glare at the red-scaled dragon they were facing. Physically the dragon resembles a wyvern than a dragon, but that did not make it any less deadly. Its body was rather slim compared to its muscular counterparts. Its wings extend from the back of its arms. Two sharp maroon ears with black and yellow fur extended from the back of its head. It had a head attire attached to the center of its head with a blue jewel in the center. The dragon's solid emerald eyes glared down at the mages. This was the Gale Harpy dragon. Urza and her group glared right back at the dragon. Urza quickly summoned two katana blades as she poured her magical energy into them. Jellal's fists glowed with a familiar attack, and Midnight's arm had clear magical energy flowing around them. Double Belersion Slash. Pegasus Ryu Seiken. Invisible Scythe. The maroon dragon reared its head back and bellowed out, Kazuryu no Hoko, Wind Dragon's Roar. A giant torrent of wind swallowed the three attacks and sent the three mages flying and colliding into a building or the ground in small craters. Urza groaned as she got out of the wall she was embedded into. Move. Urza's eyes widened as she quickly jumped out of the building, just in time to dodge a tail swipe that slammed into the building as it crumpled to the ground. That was too close, Urza muttered as she glared at the Harpy's dragon mocking sneer. Ready for round 2, partner? Akiza asked. Yeah. Urza was covered in a flash of light as she equipped her giant armor. Prepare yourself, foul beast. Urza declared as her body enlarged into a 20-meter stature. She quickly raised her hand and summoned a hammer that she began channeling her dragon slayer magic into. The Harpy dragon sneered as it flew into the air, but was suddenly blinded by a flash of light. Grand Chariot. The Harpy dragon roared in pain. Urza. Midnight. Do it. Midnight came out of his crater and used his magic to coil the dragon's limbs to avoid it escaping. Now Urza. Urza raised her hammer as it was coated with a layer of magical power. Belsarian Smash. Urza roared and with a mighty swing sent the red-scaled dragon into a nearby building with a large boom. It's not over yet. Hit him with your strongest attacks. Urza declared as she re-equipped a massive spear that was quickly coated in a thick layer of Dragon Slayer magic. Altares. Eclipse Blast. Belsarian Destroyer. The area the dragon was in was quickly enveloped in a powerful explosion as the area was covered in a thick cloud of dust and debris. Urza shrunk back to her regular size as Jellal and Midnight joined her. Are you two all right? Both nodded. Bruised, but we can shake it off. Suddenly a dragonoid lunged at them, but the three easily dispatched it. The trio turned to see more of them appear, ready to fight. The three were about to engage but suddenly saw the small group decimated rather easily. They turned to see Sho, Wally, and Richard working together to destroy all of the herds around them. This is insane. Wally shouted as he blasted another drone in the head. This is not how I ever expected my night to go. Hell, I didn't think I would reunite my brother under these circumstances either. I can't really disagree, but look at the bright side. Sho shouted back. What's that? The two brothers exclaimed. It's never a dull moment with Urza. Everyone around him had to snort in amusement. Plus you got to see your brother again, Wall. Sho exclaimed. Yes, I am very grateful for the opportunity to fight alongside him. Richard tearfully proclaimed as he destroyed another hatchling. Urza felt a vein throb on her head as her eye twitched in annoyance. I told you to save the waterworks for later. Yes ma'am. Bossy as always. Jellal teased. Urza blushed as she glared at her boyfriend. Shut up. The Bluenet Stellar Mage merely chuckled in amusement. I wonder if this would be the norm in our relationship. He asked as he blasted a few drones. Urza hacked through another drone. Don't be ridiculous. And don't tease me while I'm fighting. Jellal smirked as the three continued to destroy any rogue drone that tried attacking them. Suddenly a loud growl caused all of them to pause. They turned in shock to see the Harpy dragon still alive and ready to fight. It had injuries all over its body, especially a nasty gash from Urza's attack, but it did not seem bothered by it. Stubborn bastard, Jellal noted. Doesn't know when to stay dead. Midnight replied as his arms were coated in magical energy. Then we will just have to make sure it stays down. Urza declared as she shifted into her fairy armor. The group suddenly paused as they saw the area around them get overshadowed by something large. They looked up to see a huge object about to fall right above them. Move! Midnight roared as Jellal used his meteor spell to get everyone away. The Harpy dragon was not fortunate as it was crushed by the force of the object falling with a large boom. What the hell was that? Go aim Ost. Old rivals. The dust cleared to show Naruto struggling against Gidora. Acnologia. Everyone cried out in shock. The golden behemoth paid little attention to the insects gawking at his battle, but Naruto was keenly aware of who was near him at the moment. The black dragon quickly shoved Gidora right off him as the golden hydra landed a few feet away as Naruto got back on his legs and growled at the three monsters, who responded in kind. Naruto lunged as Gyora's left head tried to chomp on Acnologia's neck, but Naruto managed to counter with a swift swipe of his claws. The left head screeched in pain from the claw marks on its cheek. The middle tried to blast Acnologia from point blank, but Naruto managed to dodge and then punch the right head. Naruto tried to hit the middle head with a left cross, but the lead head maneuvered around it and chomped onto his arm. Naruto roared in pain as the other two heads wrapped around his body. Naruto attempted to remove the annoying pest before he roared in pain. He was electrocuted by the two heads. Using the pain as a distraction, the lead head coiled around Naruto's throat and all three began to squeeze. Naruto could feel the air left his lungs as the body began to go numb and stiff from the pain. Foam, spit, and bile began to flow out of his jaws as the last bits of air began to leave. Tou-san. Naruto's eyes widened before they narrowed in outrage. He would not be defeated so easily. Gidora heard the scream as it turned to the audience the two combatants had gathered. It opened its jaws to blast them away as the little humans readied to defend themselves. Gidora, however, had to forget the joy it was feeling as it began screeching in pain from the scorching heat it was receiving from his opponent. The three heads were uncoiled as they jumped back to glare at Acnologia, who looked like his body was composed of azure flames. You're not touching them. We shall see. Gidora mocked as it flew into the air as Naruto unraveled his wings before turning to the others. What the hell are you waiting for? Get out there and help others. Tell them exactly what I am going to say. Keep fighting and stay out of my fight. Hi! Everyone exclaimed. Naruto nodded. Good. He quickly spread his wings and flew towards his opponent. Urza sighed as she turned to see everyone looking at her. They all had looks of concern, but they knew this was not the place to ask their questions. You have a lot to explain, Urza, when this is over. Wally finally said. Urza sighed as she nodded. I know. Stings and Rogue's team. White Lance Barrage. Sting and Weislaughter shouted in unison as their combined attacks slammed into Scissorhead as he roared in pain as the blades tore about several sections of its body. The maroon dragon skidded across the ground before glaring back at the duo of dragon and sun. I will not be bested by you or your spawn, Weislaughter. Scissorhead roared as he released his magical energy as his horns began to give off a crimson glow. The tag team tensed as they prepared for his next attack. Mega Horn. Scissorhead roared as he lunged forward. Metsuryu Ugi. Holy Nova. The father-son proclaimed as they slammed their fists into Scissorhead's horns. The maroon dragon grunted in pain as he was sent flying back. Meanwhile, Levia was slammed into the ground as it groaned in pain. Levia glared up to his two opponents. Damn you, rogue. Skiadram. Surrender. Levia. You can't beat us. Skiadram warned. Levia snorted. Don't presume you have won this battle, Skiadram. The aquatic-looking dragon looked between the two as she could see flashes of light in the skies above. You will lose this battle, Skiadram. Acnologia will not prevail over Gidora and Rogue will into darkness just like his future self. Boom. Levia grunted in pain as Skiadram slammed his claws into him. My son will not fall into darkness. You underestimate Naruto. My king will prevail over Gidora. Skiadram was about to continue telling Levia off, but he and Rogue had to jump back as they dodged a breath attack from Scissorhead. Levia quickly got up and turned to his companion. Scissorhead. Let's finish this together. The maroon-scaled dragon grunted. Fine by me. The Shadow King and White King tensed as they felt the magical power of their enemies begin to release in large amounts. Ready, Weislaughter? Skiadram asked. Weislaughter nodded. Yes, let's do it like the good old days. The two dragons and their slayers began to release their mana as their bodies were covered in white and shadow auras, respectively. The two pairs reared their dominant arms back as they converged their magical energies to the center of their palms. The two auras of energy merged to form a familiar sphere. Meanwhile, Levia and Scissorhead had reached the peak of their magical aura as they lunged together and began to twirl in unison as two large spiral horns formed in front of them. Unison Raid. Spiral Horn. The dragons exclaimed. Unison Raid. Holy Shadow Dragons Flash Fang. The two pairs exclaimed in unison. The pair of slayers and dragons fired off similar blasts of white and shadow magical energy. The two beams collided against the spiraling horn. The two sides fought for dominance, but the struggle quickly ended as the two beams destroyed the ethereal horn and enveloped Scissorhead and Levia in a bright explosion. The two pairs of slayers and dragons covered their eyes as dust debris flew everywhere due to the force of the explosion. When the dust cleared, they saw the two dragons down and they were not getting back up anytime soon. We did it, Sting said as Rogue smirked. Yeah. Together. The two gave each other a fist bump with their foster fathers looking at the interaction with a smile. However, those smiles quickly vanished as they looked down at the two boys with serious frowns. Don't rest now boys, we still have a long to go. Weislaughter lectured. Boom. The four looked up to see Acnologia blast Gidora with his roar attack, but the Golden Hydra flew out of the attack with no visible injuries from their viewpoint. Will he be alright? Sting asked. Don't worry about Naruto. Just have faith in your king. Skiadram reminded. Kagura's team. Twin Dragon Slash. Roared Wave and Bullet as they attacked the scaled chest of the dragon they were facing along with the members of their guild and Mermaid Heel. The dragon in question was bipedal with teal-colored scales covering its body. Its chest, underbelly, and undertail are covered in red plates. It had 3 long golden claws for hands and feet. Similar golden longhorns covered its spine. Golden horns protruded from the sides of its chin with 1 large horn protruding from the back of its head with 2 other horns protruding from the sides of the larger horn. This was the tri-horn dragon. The tri-horn dragon grunted in pain from the dual-slash attacks, but no damage was left on its chest. The tri-horn dragon growled as it raised its arm to retaliate, but the dragon found its arm restricted by something tight. It turned to see its arm being held back with several gray strings. The teal-scaled dragon looked down to growl at a struggling Lubbock trying to hold it back. The dragon was about to launch an attack, but a shout interrupted him. Oh no, you don't. Vegetable snare, shouted a voice. The tri-horn dragon was suddenly ensnared by several vines around its wrists, ankles, abdomen, and chest. Now both Lubbock and Beth struggle to hold the dragon, but its immense strength is proving to be a challenge. Damn, this thing is strong. Guess I should expect this from a dragon. Lubbock grunted. That's all well and good, but could someone please help us? Exclaimed Beth. Gravity pressure x50. Kagura roared as the tri-horned dragon was forced to its knees as it was hit by the sword woman's gravity spell. Wave. Bullet. Get ready for him again. Kagura barked as both armored mages prepared their next attack. However, the group was left stunned as the tri-horn slowly rose back to its feet. What the hell? How the hell can it get back up with 50x pressure of gravity pushing down on him? The tri-horn reared its head back and roared as it launched a blue fireball at the three mages in front of him. Kagura, wave. Bullet. Shouted Lubbock and Beth in unison. Now you too. Kagura ordered as the two quickly dashed to face the fireball head-on. The two reared their weapon arms and exclaimed in unison, reflection slash. The two slammed their blades onto the incoming fireball and sent it right back. Beam form. Kagura shouted as she launched a massive energy slash just behind the reflected fireball. Gravity pressure x 100. She ordered as she doubled the pressure the tri-horned dragon was experiencing. Now Sela. Brandish. Moon slash, expand. The Mass and Moon Mage exclaimed as the two beams and fireball increased to 5 times their original size. The three attacks slammed into the teal-scaled dragon and it was sent flying several feet into a building in a large explosion. Everyone sighed in relief. Good job everyone. Kagura complimented. The others were about to speak, but a rumbling growl stopped them from speaking. They turned to see the tri-horned dragon coming out of the rubble and smoke with some burns and cuts on its body, but still ready for combat. Damn, that thing is resilient, Sela complained. Kagura got into a battle stance. Regardless, we will not let this deter us. Kagura proclaimed. Right. The group exclaimed in unison as they charged to continue the fight. Around them, the other members of Quattro Cerberus and a few of Mermaid Heel took care of the smaller dragonoids. Cobra's team. Dokuryu no Ode Nami, Poison Dragon Sludge Wave. Cobra launched a giant wave of poison on top of the rock dragon. The dragon grunted in annoyance as its eyes burned from the toxic smog of the sludge while his body twitched in annoyance from the acidic poison burning his body. Though that damage was superficial, it did not make it any less painful. Crimson Blast. Snow Twister. Air Bomb. Perfume Smash. The 4 attacks from the blue Pegasus mages landed their marks as the stone dragon was enveloped in a semi-large explosion. Sadly, when the smoke cleared, the stone dragon was still rearing to go with only several burns and injuries all over its body. Grr. I'll admit you humans are much more resilient than I expected, but you will still fall before me. The stone dragon proclaimed as sent shockwaves that blew Cobra and the blue Pegasus mages for several feet before they managed to skid themselves to a halt. Damn it. This bastard is relentless. Jenny whined. Even with our abilities upgraded with the enchantment, we are still outmatched in terms of power and experience, Ren complained. If you guys are done bitching, get back up and start being a useful backup. Cobra retorted. All of the mages flinched. So cruel. They comically cried. The group paused as they turned to see the stone dragon chuckling. Cobra glared at the dragons. What's so funny? You humans seem to be rather confident if you can fight me while arguing with one another. The dragon then smirked as it raised its right arm and paw upwards. Let me show you true power. Stone pillars. He slammed his palm into the ground. Cobra's eyes widened as he shouted, move. Everyone heeded his advice as they moved in time as several stone pillars erupted all across the ground. Cobra, Jenny, Ren, and Eve all managed to dodge every pillar without getting harmed. Hibiki and Ichiya were not as fortunate as both were impaled in the shoulder and leg respectively. Ichiya, Hibiki. The Blue Pegasus members shouted in horror as they saw their fellow members scream in pain from their impalement. Cobra clicked his tongue in annoyance as he jumped towards the two and got them off of the pillars. Damn, useless bastards. Gomen, for giving you grief. Ichiya apologized. Hibiki's eyes widened as he told Cobra to move as the three dodged another stone pillar attempting to impale them. Cobra turned to glare at the stone dragon, who gave him a condescending grin. If I could just pierce that bastard's thick body, I could wipe the smirk off his face. Cobra snarled in annoyance. Cobra. Cobra snapped his head to the two deadweights he was carrying. What? He retorted in an irritated tone. Hibiki flinched before answering, try the underbelly. In most animals with hard defenses, the stomach is usually left vulnerable. There's also its internal organs as they may be vulnerable as well. Cobra clicked his tongue. Easier said than done. That stone-faced bastard won't let me get to his underbelly, let alone his internal organs. I can't even land a permanent injury on him. Suddenly, the entire area began to light up as if it were the middle of the day. The mages were covered in a magical barrier, a precaution Naruto made due to knowing his fight with Gidora might drag the others so they avoid damage from his attacks or the aftermath of his attacks. Before they could ponder, several objects descended from the skies and crashed into different areas of the ARG. The stone dragon roared in pain as he was hit by several of the falling objects. On closer inspection, the mages revealed that the objects falling were meteorites. What the hell? What's going on? It's Acnologia's battle with Gidora. The falling meteorites continued for several more minutes before they finally subsided. Cobra and the other mages fell to the ground ungracefully. Several of the weaker ones actually began vomiting. The ones that had stronger stomachs looked up to see the sheer devastation of Acnologia's and Gidora's battle. Nearly every building was in complete shambles, except for the Eclipse Gate and a few other buildings. The capital castle was still standing but had suffered major damage from the attack. The damage even extended to a lot of the grasslands that surrounded the capital city. Fires were now everywhere with black smog going up in the air and painting the skies a dark red hue. Geez. We're not even near them and we're feeling the effects. Jenny moaned in annoyance. Cobra growled at her, which caused the blonde model to flinch. Move it, maggots. This is our chance to attack. He barked out to her and the other mages. Everyone else quickly nodded in agreement. Right. Never thought we would have Acnologia on our side, Eve commented. Let alone be Naruto Marvel. Hibiki continued. Or that he actually has a harem, Jenny revealed with a blush across her cheeks. Seriously. That's what you focus on? Cobra incredulously asked. He shakes his head in exasperation. Damn idiots, he says to himself before looking forward to the wounded stone dragon. Let's focus back on this freak. Gildart's team. Gah. Jura grunted as he was sent skidding across the ground. He looked up to see a giant magical sphere heading towards him. Suddenly, Gildarts jumps in front of him in the blast. The Crush Mage rears his fist and with a mighty roar swings his fist into the blast as it was split into pieces. You alright, Jura? Gildarts asks. Bruised, but alive. The two turned to gaze at their enemy as it snarled down at them. This dragon was bipedal with a slimmer structure that made it seem sickly but still threatening. It had a pair of royal purple wings with two pairs of arms with violet spikes coming out of the elbow. It had a pair of golden horns protruding downwards from the back of its skull. This was the Skull Fiend Dragon. Tell me, Gildarts, what are chances looking like? Jura asked after a moment of silence. Gildarts gained a sheepish look before he answered, well, I got my ass whooped by Acnologia in around 5 minutes. That's not very reassuring, Jura muttered. But I also didn't have this Dragonslayer enchantment and a good partner as a backup. So I say our chances at living are rather high. Gildarts optimistically countered. Jura chuckled a bit. Hey, you are always filled with such optimism. Gildarts shrugged his shoulders. It's a gift from being in Fairy Tale. The Crash Mage turned his attention back on the dragon. Well, let's go. Gildarts dashed towards the Skull Dragon. The giant reptile retaliated by summoning green and purple flames and hurling them at the Crush Mage as they took the shape of giant skulls. However, before they could reach Gildarts, 4 giant magma spheres countered the flaming skulls. Gildarts took a quick peek behind him to see Jura providing backup with his magma golem. He smiled as he turned towards the dragon and charged it with his magical power. All crush. Gildarts roared as he swung his fist and the dragon retaliated with his own fist encased in his flames again. Shockwaves of white and flaming magical energy rippled across the area. Gildarts grunted as he was sent flying back. The ace of Fairy Tale skidded himself to a halt as he glared at the mocking sneer of the Skull Dragon. Cheeky reptile. The dragon reared its head as it prepared a breath attack. However, before it could launch the attack, the giant fiend felt its jaw get clamped down by the diamond hands of Jura's lava golem. Gildart's surprise quickly turned into a determined frown. He quickly dashed to the front of the dragon and slammed a fierce uppercut into its unguarded chest. The dragon grunted in pain as the lava golem grasped its hands together before slamming them over the dragon's head. The fiend was left disoriented as the golem sent another hook to its face and Gildarts sent a frontal kick to its chin. All crush rumbling MT. Fuji. The combined attack of two of the strongest mages enveloped the dragon in a bright explosion. The two mages stayed on guard as they knew it would take more than that to kill the dragon. Do you think it's over? Jura asked. Suddenly the two heard a growl as the skull fiend rose from the cloud. Battered, but still ready to go. There's your answer, Gildarts replied. Suddenly a giant lightning bolt crashed between the two opposing sides. Rock and debris flew everywhere as Gildarts shielded his eyes from the dust and the flash of lightning. When he looked back, his eyes widened in shock. Holy shit! Jura and Gildarts exclaimed in shock, awe, and fear. The reason? Several lightning bolts were crashing down all around the capital and the surrounding area. Tornadoes were tearing up the land as they flew through the area. And at the center of all this, there was a bright white light above the center of the capital. The literal earth was being uprooted from the ground as it rose into the air and up to the bright light. There was a sudden flash as Gildarts and Jura were temporarily blinded. When the two mages regained their sight, the color drained from their bodies. There was a huge crater in the center of the capital with a giant mushroom cloud rising out of it and into the skies. Water began filling the crater and turning it into a large lake. There were sporadic bolts of lightning around the sky and the tornadoes were slowly unraveling and disappearing. Neither could believe what they were seeing. They had never seen anyone or anything have this much power before. Just what kind of battle had they become part of? What's going on? Jura screamed over the bellowing winds that had not dissipated. My guess. Naruto is having as much trouble with his own enemy and brought out the big guns to try and take it down. Gildarts shouted back. The two turned to see the skull dragon still raring to fight. The two got themselves ready to continue their fight. I hope the capital ends up surviving after all this is said and done. The capital. I just hope we and the rest of this country survive this invasion and not end up as collateral damage. Gray's team. Ice make. Cannon. Ice make. Dragons. Water nebula. Magulati Sodom. Motor. All the mages shouted as they used their attacks to blast, crush, slice, and slam the approaching dragonoids away or completely destroy them. The four mages were out of breath with various injuries all around their bodies, but nothing life-threatening. Damn it, this is getting tiring, do these things never end? An exasperated Gray asked. I have to agree. They're like cockroaches. They just keep coming. Leon replied. And we're getting tired. Dragonslayer enchantment or not, we are reaching our limits. Meredy commented. Juvia and Racer were also panting from the numerous magic attacks they used consecutively and dodged. Suddenly another dragonoid rose from the debris and charged a beam at Meredy and Juvia, however, only Gray noticed the dragonoid in time. Acting quickly, the ice mage dived towards the two girls and pushed to the ground as a beam sailed just a few inches above them. Holy! Leon and Racer shouted. Fast forward. Several orbs slammed and crushed the dragonoid. Everyone turned to see a familiar time mage. Oh! Meredy exclaimed in shock and happiness. Suddenly several more dragonoids erupted out of the debris. No time. Kill it. Acting quickly, Racer and Leon quickly disposed of the new drones that appeared. Gray quickly got off the two mages. Are you two alright? Meredy nodded in appreciation. Yeah, thanks, Gray. Don't know what we would have done without you. Gray replied it was nothing. Thank you Gray-sama. An ecstatic Juvia exclaimed. Gray looked at the water mage with confusion and surprise. Juvia noticed the look and cutely tilted her head. What? She asked. You're not trying to crush me with your hugs, Gray said in a stunned tone. Juvia shook her head. There's a time and place for that, Gray-sama. Now is not the time. Juvia then gave Gray a huge, dazzling smile. But I'm overjoyed to see you have missed my affections. I promise to double my affection when this is over. She happily exclaimed. Gray felt his eyes bug out as his jaw dropped. Fuck. Why did I have to open my big mouth? He mentally screamed to himself. Ka-boom. Everyone flinched as they heard the large explosion go off. Damn. What the hell was that? Racer exclaimed as he rubbed his ears to make sure he could still hear. It's coming from Acnologia and Gidora, Leon responded. Juvia still can't believe that Naruto is Acnologia. Gray nodded. That guy has a lot to answer when this is all over. Let's just be glad he's on our side now. Otherwise, I don't think we would be alive right now. Merity commented as the others nodded in agreement, though Juvia and Gray were more reluctant to admit it for obvious reasons. Ultir stayed quiet as she contemplated their situation. At this rate, we will be too tired to do anything, and if we face a dragon, we won't be able to do much. She then remembered a certain spell she could use. One that Hades had forbidden her from ever using. Perhaps I should. Don't even think about it. What? Ultir's eyes widened as she looked back and forth as she tried to find the person who spoke to her. Don't even think about casting that spell. The voice spoke again. Naruto. How the hell are you talking to me right now? Ultir screamed. I am speaking to you with great difficulty while trying to fight a kaiju. The time mage flinched. So I am going to keep this brief. While the spell you plan to cast would be able to reverse time, the price would be too high. You would move time back maybe a minute. That's it, and it would cost you all of your remaining years of life. Ultir felt her face pale at the thought. So I am ordering you. Do not cast that spell, understood? Ultir gulped. She felt like she was being lectured by her father. Shaking her head to rid herself of the possible headache that the thought would induce, she mentally said she understood. Good. That was the last thing Ultir heard as it became quiet in her mind again. Ultir sighed as she turned to her companions. The night of this invasion was far from over. Romeo's team. Gah. Macau grunted as he was pinned down by several dragonoids. Macau struggled to get free, but to little avail, as the hatchlings kept a tight grip on the fire mage. The drones opened their maws as their magical energy was about to be released at point-blank range. However, two streams of smoke and purple fire slam into the drones and freeing the elder fire mage. He looks up to see his son, Romeo, and Wakaba standing protectively around him. Dad, are you okay? Romeo demanded as kept his eyes on the drones. I'm sore and bleeding, but I can still manage, Macau grunted as he got up. Good. Then on your feet, old timer. We still got dragons to fight. Wakaba jokes. The fire mage snorted. As if you're one to talk. Gah. The elder mages turned to see a drone sneak attack Romeo. Romeo. Macau shouted in concern for his son, but the two were surrounded again by dragon drones. Romeo clutched his injured shoulder as he was being surrounded again. Suddenly he was saved by the familiar voice that shouted, Tenjin no Dogo. A giant swirl of black winds ripped through all of the drones and sent them flying. Are you okay? Romeo turns his head to see a familiar maroon pig-tailed sky maiden stretching her hand off. He graciously took it as he slowly got up. Yeah. Thanks, Sharia. The second Sky Slayer smiled in return. Of course. Romeo had a slight blush at the dazzling smile and how it reminded him of Wendy. He quickly shook his head. Now was not the time for this. Sharia was completely oblivious to Romeo's action and simply tilted her head in confusion. Before she could comment, the two had to dodge several blasts from more drones appearing. Lightning cards, sand twister. Two voices suddenly shouted as they blasted the new drones away. Romeo and Sharia turned to see some familiar faces. Max. Kana. We came to help. Kana called. The two teen mages nodded as the 6 mages gathered together. All right then, let's fight. They all exclaimed. Fighting in this battle is manly. Elfman cried in excitement. He turned to see Lysina about to be sneak attacked. He quickly dashes in front and crushes the drone. Don't touch my sister, bastard. He growled. He turns to his little sister. Are you alright? Lysina nodded. Thanks, Elfman Ni-chan. The two Strauss siblings suddenly felt the ground beneath them shook violently. Gah. Lysina nearly fell before Elfman grabbed her and kept the two of them steady. What's going on? She asked. I don't know, Elfman replied. Just as the words left his mouth, the ground began to crack all around them. Stone, rubble, and the earth uprooted off the ground as several geysers of blue and yellow magical energy erupted from several areas of the crumpled capital. Lysina's eyes widened as she finally understood what was happening. It's Acnologia and Gidora. Elfman and those around that heard her, felt their eyes widen. Holy, Elfman was cut off as a massive geyser erupted as the earth was split in half and Gidora was flying out with Acnologia hot on his trail. Lysina, Elfman, and the other mages continued to stare at the devastation caused by the Black Dragon and Golden Kaiju. Unbelievable, Lysina muttered. I don't think the capital will hold out any longer from their battle, Elfman commented. Lysina stared at her brother like he just told her that Evergreen was pregnant with his kid. The capital. I am more concerned if we'll survive this. Eclaire's and Katya's group. Eclaire and Katya are running from the drones as mages from several different guilds are fighting them off. One drone jumped in front of them, but the two managed to take it down with a double jab that sent it flying back. The two were heaving from exhaustion as they did not have real combat experience, which meant they were tired out compared to the other more experienced mages. Before the two could do anything, the two were pushed onto the ground as they were pinned down by the clawed feet of several hatchlings. Katya. Eclaire screamed in concern. The brunette turned to her companion. Eclaire. You need to get Moment and run. Eclaire's eyes widened in horror. I can't just leave you. She cried out. You still need to find out about your past, right? You can't afford to die here. Katya insisted as she gave a sad smile. I'm sorry for dragging you into all this. I just wanted us to enjoy the GMG together. The drones above her were about to blast her with their breath attacks. Eclaire's eyes widened as she continued to struggle. Katya. Something seemed to have snapped in the young brunette as the air around them began to get extremely hot as bright yellow and pink flames erupted out of Eclaire's body. What? Katya and Moment exclaimed. Get off them. With a mighty roar, Eclaire sent a blazing shockwave that vaporized the drones as they blasted off all of them. Katya and Moment looked in awe as the flames continued to dance around Eclaire's body as it suddenly took the shape of a large, majestic vermilion bird. Or perhaps something more. Eclaire. Katya called out to her friend, but Eclaire did not seem to respond to her voice. She seems to be in a trance, Moment commented. Katya turned to the blonde plushy-looking bird. How can we get her out of it? Moment shook his head. I don't know. A large shadow overlapped their bodies. The two turned to see a slim bipedal dragon glaring at the three. It had two pairs of wings and a dark orange and dark navy blue color scheme. This was the Dark Blaze Dragon. Well, isn't this an interesting sight? A human with the ability to wield those mystic flames. That makes you a phoenix priestess. Dark Blaze wondered. I had assumed they had all perished long ago. But it seems luck is on my side that I am privileged to devour such a rare mortal. Or should I say immortal? He mocked. You will fall, dragon. Were the first words spoken by Eclaire. The Dark Blaze Dragon began to laugh uncontrollably. I would like to see you try. He mocked. Eclaire formed a giant fireball and launched towards the dragon. Dark Blaze didn't even move as it opened its maw and sucked in the fireball in a matter of seconds. Fool. While the flames of a phoenix can pierce a dragon's scales, I am a fire dragon, which means your attacks are useless. Then I will have to use brute force. Eclaire exclaimed as she dashed towards the Dark Blaze Dragon. The fire dragon rose into the air with Eclaire barely missing him. Eclaire spread her fire wings and went after him. The two did not travel high into the air as they feared getting caught in Naruto's battle with Gidora. Dark Blaze suddenly stopped as he quickly swerved around and dived bomb into Eclaire. The fire dragon slammed into the Phoenix Priestess and they collided into the ground in a large crater that sent debris, stone, and several mages flying away. Ow. Are you okay, Moment? Katya grayed out. Moment grumbled as he slowly got back to his feet. I think so. What about Eclaire? The two see Eclaire being pinned down by the Dark Blaze Dragon. Eclaire. Unfortunately, Dark Blaze turned his attention to them after hearing their cry. Oh. Are these your friends? Perhaps I should devour them once I am finished with my minor altercation with you. You won't touch them. Eclaire roared as she blasted Dark Blaze off of her as he landed a few feet from them. You may have power, but you have no idea how to use it. Dark Blaze lectured. Let's see about that. The two fired large fireballs against one another and caused a bright explosion of flames to envelop the area. Ah! Katya and Moment screamed as they covered themselves as the flames were about to envelop her. However, when the two felt nothing, they looked up to see Eclaire protect the two with her phoenix form. The two also noticed they were in a barrier of some sort and wondered if this was due to Acnologia or by Eclaire. However, before anything could be said, a dark claw grabbed the Phoenix Priestess and slammed her into the ground. Fool! Now your flames are mine. Dark Blaze proclaimed as he began to ingest the flames of Eclair's construct as it began to shrink until it was completely gone. Eclair! The two screamed, but Dark Blaze slammed his tail to the ground which sent the two flying back a few feet. Now that I have had my full, time to end this. The Fire Dragon turned his attention to the weakened Fire Priestess. No Eclair, Katya muttered as she tried to get back, but flinched due to the injuries she had sustained. Katya bit her lip in frustration. Why can't I help? I want to help everyone. I want to be strong. I want to protect my friends. Katya cried as she slammed her fist into the ground and blood began to ooze out of her hands and lips. She then remembered what Naruto told her. If there really is a celestial power within me. Please, I beg of you, help me. Help me save everyone or we'll all die. She desperately pleaded. If you wish for the power, then you must prove your resolve. An unfamiliar regal voice stated. Katya opened her eyes to see herself in a white chamber with several crystal statues surrounding her. Where am I? You are within your mind, Katya. The voice responded. Katya looked back and forth to find the source of the voice, but it seemed to be coming from the entire voice. Who's there? We have been with you since the moment you were born. You are our chosen wielder. Chosen wielder. Katya repeated. Yes. We are different from other celestial spirits as we decide on who will be our wielder from all the potential stellar mages in Earthland. Katya walked to the center of the room and she looked around at all the statues surrounding her, each one intricate and unique in design. Some looked humanoid, regal, demonic, mechanical, animalistic, and much more. On each of their stands was the symbol of a planet. Katya turned to look around the ceiling as she addressed the voice again. And you chose me, why? Katya couldn't help but ask. There were plenty of powerful stellar mages out there. Why did these beings see in her? Because we see what some may not be able to see right away. The same thing Acnologia saw. You have the potential to be a powerful stellar mage, Katya. One that could easily rival Anna Heartfilia. Which is expected and ironic, considering who your family line originates from. Katya was very tempted to ask about her family and if they had any connection to Naruto and Wendy, but decided that could wait. Will I be able to use any of you? I don't exactly have massive reserves of magical energy. Your limited capacity will only allow you one summon at this time. Katya nodded as she expected this. When they survived this, she was going to work on increasing her capacity. What do I need to do? You must choose which of us you wish to summon, and choose carefully as you won't get a second chance. Katya nodded as she looked at all the statues around her. We are fighting a war, and I need a summon that can fight in one. The brunette murmured as she walked toward one statue. This one had the symbol of Mercury. I choose you. Very well. Then touch my statue to form the contract and call the name when you awaken. The brunette touched the statue as she was blinded by a flash of light and the last thing she saw was the name of the spirit she chose. Katya blinked as she got her bearings and saw she was back in the capital in the middle of the invasion. Katya. She turned to see Momin with tears in his ears. You're okay. Momin gave a tight side hug. Katya smiled as she returned it. Sorry for worrying you. Katya apologized. Eclair. The duo turned to see several mages attacking the dragon to free Eclair, but they were having little success. Momin shouted in concern for Eclair and the others, while Katya narrowed her eyes in anger at the dragon pinning her friend down. With a deep breath, she got up and began walking towards the beast. The dragon took notice of her and began to laugh. Oh, so the weakling comes before him. Plan to offer yourself up to me? He inquired. Katya glared up at the dragon. No, I am here to beat you. Everyone looked at Katya as if she had lost her mind. Dark Blaze blinked before he began to laugh uncontrollably. And how do you plan to do that? He mocked. Instead of answering, Katya was enveloped in a magical aura as she raised her palm and it glowed a bright blue. She opened her palm to reveal a black and blue key with a planet at the end of it. Yu-Gi-Oh! Ost. Obelisk the Tormentor theme. Open gate of the celestial sea titan. Mercury. A massive blue sigil appeared below Katya as a giant geyser was released into the sky. From the geyser, a pair of eyes can be seen as a silhouette forming. When the geyser dissipated, no one could believe what they were seeing. Standing behind Katya was a 50-meter blue-armored Goliath with 2 blades of water in each hand. What is thy wish, my summoner? Mercury booms out. Katya pointed at Dark Blaze. Defeat the dragon and any that may come after it. Mercury gives a malicious smirk. As you wish. You think I fear this? Not a chance. Dark Blaze roars as it fires a large fire blast towards Obelisk. But the celestial titan merely slaps the fireball away. He closes his hand into a fist and charges it as it glows a bright blue, foul creature. Be gone. Twin Aqua Slash. Mercury slams her blades into Dark Blaze's abdomen and fires a blast that slashes right through it and killing it instantly. Holy shit. Everyone in the vicinity exclaimed in shock. They never expected such power from Katya. But then again, she did look like Wendy, and she proved that you should never underestimate anyone by appearance or attitude. Katya sighs as she feels the drain from maintaining Mercury. She turns when she hears someone calling her name. She sees Eclair and Momon rushing towards her. What is that? And how did you manage to summon him? Katya gave a cheeky smirk. Well, Naruto always said I had a special power and now I have it. And we found more about you, Eclair. Momon cheerfully exclaimed. Eclair looked down at her hands in thought. Phoenix Priestess. She murmured. A term so new, yet so familiar to her. She suddenly flinched as she saw several visions pass her mind. Fires surrounding everything. A large silhouette in the sky and 2 people screaming something incoherent. Eclair shook her head as she looked back at her 2 mages. Anything? Katya asked. Just images, but nothing much on the details. Katya and Momon took one of Eclair's hands into their own. We'll get answers, together. Eclair smiled at the 2 in gratitude. Boom. The trio's tender moment was interrupted as they got hit by a powerful gust of wind. Thankfully, Mercury protected them from being blown away along with the others with a water barrier. The girls were about to speak when they saw a large flash of light in the sky. What was that? It's Acnologia's and Gidora's fight. It continues to grow more intense the longer those 2 prolong their battle. Those 2 are really powerful, Momon commented as Katya and Eclair dumbly nodded. Good luck in your battle, Dragon King, Mercury murmured as she gazed at the horizon where the battle was continuing. Laxus's team. Shit, shouted the Thunder Legion as they saw a giant lightning bolt heading towards them. However, Laxus managed to jump in front of the blast and devoured the giant sphere of lightning. Laxus gave a content sigh as he landed in front of his team. You guys all right? He asked as he slightly turned his head to them. The 3 nodded in unison. Yes. Thank you, Laxus. The 4 turned back to the dragon they were facing. It was around 50 meters long with a serpentine body covered in bright green scales with a wide pair of wings. This was the Thunder Dragon. Luck seems to be on our side. I always wondered what it's like to face a lightning dragon. Laxus commented with a smirk as lightning danced around his body. The 2 sides were about to tussle again when something slammed in between the 2. When the dust settled, it showed Zeke on top of another Thunder Dragon as he bit into the Serpentine Dragon's neck. Zeke! They all exclaimed in shock. The other Thunder Dragon tried to chomp down on Zeke, but the Xenogre jumped away at the last second. Zeke landed right beside Laxus as the 2 Thunder Dragons glared down at them with Zeke growling in retaliation. I wonder if this is how Natsu always feels. Laxus idly thought aloud. Probably. The Thunder Legion remarked. The Thunder Dragons roared in unison as their bodies began to glow. Lightning danced around their bodies as they were encased in transparent spheres of electricity. The dragons' eyes began to glow an eerie white as their spheres began to slowly converge into each other. The area was covered in a brilliant flash as the 2 spheres converged into one. Laxus and his company were completely blinded by the light as it illuminated the surrounding area for a 5-mile radius. When the group regained their sight as the light died down, they turned back to their opponent and were completely stupefied at what they were seeing. The 2 dragons had somehow merged into one new dragon. Its body shape now resembled that of a bipedal western dragon with slim arms and legs. Its body was now covered in smooth, light red scales. It had 2 heads with rounded heads with protruding snouts and a single large, violet horn on top of their heads. The 2 heads glared down at their enemies as drool seeped down their teeth and lips. The 2 dragons had now merged into the twin-headed Thunder Dragon. They fused. Evergreen exclaimed, how in the hell is that possible? Laxus glared as he began to emit blue lightning along with his natural yellow lightning. It doesn't matter. That just gives us one enemy to take care of. The twin thunder dragon roared as they reared their heads back and fired off two giant lightning spheres, but like before Laxus and Zeke devoured the lightning attacks before launching their signature attacks into the dragon's chest. The twin-headed dragon roared in pain as it was being blasted away, but it held its ground. Freed, Evergreen, and Bixlo joined and fired their own attacks into the dragon's chest. Their combined effort managed to blast the red-scaled dragon into a partially destroyed building as it was enveloped in a small explosion. Did that kill him? Freed hopefully asked. I highly doubt that would be enough. Suddenly the twin-headed dragon rose out of the dust and smoke with a burned chest and it looked angrier than before. Great. Now he seems even more determined to kill us. However, before either of the sides could start fighting again, someone jumped from between the dragon's head and delivered a downward slash to its chest. The twin thunder dragon roared in pain as it felt the steel of the blade actually piercing through its scales and slicing open his chest. The cut was not deep, but the damage was still enough to cause it agony. The two glared at the figure as she landed in front of Laxus and his team. The lightning slayer smirked at the familiar mages. Nice to see you again. Demaria. Demaria gave a familiar smirk in response. You as well, Laxus Drayar. What are you doing here, Demaria? I thought you would be with your guild. A curious Freed asked. Demaria shrugged. I was, but they told me they could handle the drones and asked me to help the other guild's teams that were struggling without a slayer. Kagura and the others were busy fighting a dragon, my mistresses were fighting off other dragons. I saw you guys being at a standstill and decided to tip the scales a bit. Laxus huffed. We appreciate the help, but we could have handled this. Ah tilde, Demaria cooed, is Laxus trying to be the big bad tough guy? Laxus jabbed his thumb towards the dragon. Oh, you misunderstand. I appreciate the help, I just think your time could be used better than for this pushover. Demaria's smile shrunk to a coy smirk. Oh, aren't you the charmer? Laxus shrugged. I like to think I learned a few things from my grandpa. Demaria licked her lips. Keep up with that kind of flattery and you might get far with me. Laxus gave a soy smile. I am counting on it. The Thunder Legion was looking back and forth between the two S-rank mages, what's going on? Evergreen finally asked. I think Laxus has found his soulmate, Freed replied with Bixlo nodding. The two lovebirds were cut from their flirting and the Legion from their staring by a large stomp. They turned to see an enraged twin-headed dragon, who was not too pleased they had ignored him. Demaria had the decency to blush in embarrassment. Oops, it looks like our idle chat made me forget about this guy. And he doesn't seem all that happy. Boom. The group paused when they heard another large stomp behind them. The group turned to see another dragon standing before them. It was around 50 meters long with a muscular and bipedal build. Its body was mostly covered in pale brown scales, but the bottom half of its body was colored in pale purple scales. It had a small gemstone in the middle of its head with two small fins on the sides of its jaw and two horns from the back of its head. This was the tyrant dragon. Oh great, another one just showed up. Don't worry. Demaria placed her blade on her shoulder. I got this. She confidently replied as she walked towards the tyrant dragon. Freed. Bixlo. Evergreen. I want you guys to help Demaria against the dragon. But Laxus. Freed exclaimed. We can't leave you alone to fight this thing. Evergreen shouted. Laxus raised an eyebrow. Who said I would be alone? Zeke walked next to his partner. I got this partner of mine here. I got this. You go support the one who needs it. Oh, worried about my well-being. I'm touched. Demaria called out in amusement. More like returning the favor. Although if you want to see my generosity, stick around after this and I'll show much more generosity. Laxus called back. This time Demaria looked behind her to look at Laxus. Oh, and how do you plan to do this? Laxus gave her a wide smile. I have my ways. Demaria giggled as she turned back to her opponent. I'll hold you to it. Laxus turned to the twin-headed dragon as he powered up into his emerald lightning mode. The Thunder Legion quickly joined her as they stood just behind her. Are you three ready? As long as you're done flirting with our leader, Evergreen grumbled. For now. Demaria teased as she let out another amused, excited giggle. I can't wait to tell Brandish I've got a guy to share. What were the deadpan responses of the Thunder Legion to that last comment? Nothing. Let's focus on this bastard, alright. The three decided to ignore that last comment for the sake of their current sanity. Right, they replied. Anna's team. Ha! Anna shouted as she slashed through another set of dragon drones. Two dragons appeared at her sides and fired two swift breath attacks at her. The stellar mage was not intimidated as she jumped into the air and charged her blade with mana. Celestial Rainbow Slash. Anna delivered a diagonal slash as the dragon was bisected from the shoulder to the left side of its abdomen. Anna quickly turned as the other dragon fired another breath attack at her. Shinigiryu no Hoko, Celestial Rainbow Dragon's Roar. The majestic roar ripped through the lightning attack and pierced the dragon's chest. Anna then jumped back down as she summoned several ethereal blades around her, and with one wave of her hand, she pierced all of the remaining drones as she landed on the ground again. Anna sighed as she saw the drones fall to the ground. It's been a long time since she had fought like this, but thankfully constantly being with Irene and Mermaid Heel has kept her in great shape. I just hope Naruto is not being hindered by his lack of fighting in these centuries, or else Gidora will slaughter him. Anna was cut from her musings when a dragon was slammed into a heap a few feet from her. She looked to see Irene, in her dragon form, towering over the fallen lizard. Anna raised an amused eyebrow at her. Enjoying yourself, I see. Irene gave a hearty snort. It's been so long since I've had the chance to spread my wings like this. It's wonderful. Irene sighed contentedly as she spread her wings. Ka-boom. The two turned to see a brilliant flash enveloping the mountains beyond the capital before seeing them get annihilated. A powerful gust of wind from the shockwaves of the explosion blasted through the entire capital. Anna and Irene weren't affected by the gust as Irene was in her dragon form and Anna was right next to her, so she was safe as well. Even if they could be affected, the barriers of the enchantment spell kept them and everyone else safe. Their fight has been going on for a while. Anna finally said as she could barely see the two go back into the skies. She had lost count of how many explosions those two caused in their fight. Yeah, I know it's expected a fight like this between kings would of this magnitude, but Irene trailed off as she looked back at Anna. You feel it too. Irene nodded. Yeah, he's struggling in the fight. Anna sighed in concern. We have to remind ourselves that Naruto isn't the same. He hasn't been in such a serious fight like this in a very long time. The stellar mage nodded. Thankfully, he's made sure to train himself back to shape. That's why he's been doing so well. If he didn't, I don't know if he would be doing so well. The fact that even with Naruto training these 7 years and is still having trouble only solidifies how much of a threat Gidora truly is. Anna was about to speak again when both hers and Irene's eyes widened as they felt a sudden spike of mana approaching them. The two ladies of the apocalypse quickly jumped back as a giant bolt of violet lightning crashed into the spot the two were originally standing in. Stone, dust, cinderblock, and asphalt flew in every direction. Anna quickly cut through the incoming debris flying towards her, while Irene used her wings to block them. The two women stayed guarded as the dust cleared to reveal who caused the bolt of lightning. When the dust cleared, a large dragon was at the center of the crater. The two women were shocked as they easily recognized the dragon. It was Yugo, the Dark Rebellion dragon. Anna and Irene sighed in annoyance. Great, even you have appeared here, Yugo. Anna complained. Hey. I am fortunate to have the opportunity to repay you for what your husband did to me 400 years ago. Anna and Irene snorted. So you're willing to become someone's submissive bitch to get back at our husband? Irene mocked. Yugo snarled. He was submissive to no one. You wretch whores. Do not presume I will stay controlled by that foolish mortal. When this is over I will kill him and then kill Gidora or Naruto in their weakened state. And with their defeat I will reign as the new king of dragons. He boasted gleefully. Fairy tale Ost, Hanjiki no Noroshi. Anna and Irene had to restrain themselves from laughing out loud at Yugo's ridiculous claim. There's just one problem with that plan, Irene stated. Oh. Yugo growled. You're under the impression that you can get back at our husband by beating us. Anna trailed off as she and Irene got into battle stances. But that will only happen if you can beat us. But you won't. Irene completed. The Dark Rebellion dragon scoffed. We shall see, you false dragon slayer. The celestial spirit king had just finished slicing through another dragon when he saw the flash of the violet thunderbolt. His eyes widened as he saw dark rebellion in his assault against Anna and Irene. "My queen and comrade," he shouted as he was about to intervene, but was stopped by another dragon managing to slam a right hook to his cheek. The celestial king skidded across the area before he stabbed his blade into the earth to slow himself to a halt. When he looked up, his eyes narrowed at the foe that struck him. Armored dragon. The king acknowledged. "You won't be interfering in that battle, celestial king. So sit back and enjoy the slaughter as I beat you to a pulp." "You are presumptuous to think you can defeat me," the king retorted. "Then let's see who's superior. My armor or your blade?" "Well then, have at thee," the spirit king proclaims as he attempts a downward slash. However, to his shock, his blade bounces off the dragon's forearm with a large clank. "What the?" as he stumbles back a bit from the recoil. The armored dragon laughs. "Fool. My armor is made from pressurized mithril metal. Your measly blade will not be able to pierce it. We shall see." The armored dragon lunged to land a swift left hook, but the stellar king could catch it with ease. He then quickly followed with a Spartan kick to the center of the armored dragon's chest. The armored reptile was sent flying back a few feet before it got back to its feet, and it growled at the king. "Do not underestimate me, dragon. I am skilled in many forms of combat besides swordsmanship." The armored dragon growled as it lunged once more, and the celestial spirit tensed up to counter the following attack. Back with the other battle, Anna quickly jumped back as several spheres of lightning vaporized the ground she was just standing on. "You won't escape me," Rebellion yelled as it fired a roar of purple lightning. "Shinigiryu no Hoko." The two roars collided in an explosion as violet and rainbow lightning flew in several directions. Anna steeled herself and awaited Dark Rebellion's next move. Suddenly, Yugo rushed out of the dust cloud with its right arm reared back. Anna quickly jumps to the side as the dark dragon slams its claw down. Anna quickly runs up the wall to Yugo's side before using it as a platform to jump towards Dark Rebellion. Shinigiryu no Kagizum, Celestial Rainbow Dragon's Claw. Anna lands a swift claw on its head. Yugo stumbles back, but has no time to recover as Anna shouts, "Celestial Rainbow Double Slash." The multicolored projectile slash cut through Yugo's chin blade before cutting through the center of Rebellion's head. The lightning dragon roared in pain as it clutched his head. His pain soon turned into anger. "How dare this filthy human do this to him? She will pay. Die, you miserable bitch!" It roared as he launched a lightning-coated fist to her. Anna crossed her arms and braced for impact as the fist slammed into her. She was enveloped in an explosion. Yugo smirked smugly, believing he killed that bitch that dared to have the power of a dragon. However, that smug grin quickly disappeared from his face as his middle and index fingers were cut off. He was once more roared in pain as he clutched his arm close to his chest. He looked to glare at the figure coming out of the smoke cloud. Anna could be seen glaring at Yugo. Her attire was in shambles with tears and rips all around her wardrobe. Anna uses her free arm to rip the tattered sleeves of her right arm and rip the skirt of her dress to allow her easier mobility. "It really is astounding I could fight so effectively in this dress," she wondered out loud. She then turned to the dragon glaring down at her. "Well, are you going to give up? Or try another futile attempt to stop me?" Yugo growled as he lunged at Anna, but felt his body jerking back as something grabbed his tail. He turns to see Irene holding onto his tail. "Don't forget there are two of us." Senninryu no Saiga, Celestial Rainbow Dragon's Crushing Fang. Dark Rebellion grunted in pain as he was about to launch a lightning blast right into Irene's face, but lost his focus as Anna landed a talon and slash attack onto his chest. Blood spills out of the deep gash as Yugo coughs up blood. Irene then landed a fierce right cross to his face. Dark Rebellion now felt enraged as his eyes glowed a deep royal purple as lightning flew out of his eyes. "I will not fall to the two of you." Anna's eyes widened before turning to her partner. "Irene now." Irene quickly got the message as the two quickly drew in the air before launching their attacks at the same time Yugo unleashed his own. Senninryu no Hoko, Sage Dragon's Roar, Shinigiryu no Hoko, Violet Shockwave. Boom. A large explosion covered the area as Anna was sent flying back several feet before slamming into the ground. The stellar mage groaned as she got out of the embedded pavement and shook her head to get rid of her minor dizziness. She quickly scanned the area for Irene and Yugo. What she saw next made her see red. Yugo was holding Irene down as he prepared to fire a roar attack at point-blank range. Time to die, bitch. Yugo cheered before pausing. What is this incredible magical power? He wondered before a geyser of mana erupted behind him and Irene. He turned and was shocked at who was at the center of the magic energy geyser. At the center of the geyser was Anna herself, but her appearance had changed. Her hair had become more untamed and the tips had straightened into sharp points. Her hands and feet had become defined claws and talons, and her teeth elongated into sharp points. The pupils of the eyes were now slits with the iris having a multicolored shine to them. The most prominent change was her entire body, head to toe, covered in bluish golden white scales with a rainbow accent shining over the scales. Get the hell off my crimson vixen, you filthy lizard. Yugo was completely baffled as he recognized the form Anna had taken. Dragon Force. Anna quickly lunged as debris and pavement went flying in the opposite direction. Anna was a multicolored bullet as she stabbed Yugo in the center of its chest as it was sent flying back several feet before slamming into a crumbled building. Anna quickly turned to her co-wife. Are you alright? Irene groaned as she got back to her feet. Yeah, but I could handle that. Anna smiled in amusement. You're welcome. Irene rolled her eyes and turned back to Yugo as he was getting back up. Now let's take care of him, Anna said as she jumped and landed on top of Irene's head. I forgot how sexy you were when you get bossy. Irene slurred. Wait until we have some free time with Naruto, and I can show how really bossy I can get. Anna lustfully replied. Bossier than what I have seen? Irene asked with an amused eyebrow. Anna gave her a feral smile. You'd be surprised. Irene lustfully licked her lips. Oh, I am definitely looking forward to it. But first, let's kill this bastard. Clank. The Celestial Spirit King clashes once more with the claws of the armored dragon. The two grapple one another for dominance before jumping back. The armored dragon rears its head back as it launches a large energy blast towards the Celestial King. The stellar spirit frowned before slashing the blast in half. He then dashes forward and launches an upward slash, but the armored dragon crosses his arms to block the attack, which results in another loud clank. The king quickly jumps into the air as his blade charges in his magical energy before swinging the blade down onto the dragon's shoulder. The dragon and the surrounding area are enveloped in a small explosion as the king jumps back to observe the damage his attack caused to the dragon. Unsurprisingly, the armored dragon came out of the smoke cloud with what appeared to be no damage. Foolish spirit. I told you. Nothing can pierce my armor. However, the armored dragon failed to see the noticeable crack on its shoulder. The Celestial Spirit King smirks as he now sees the opportunity to end this fight. I wonder about that. The king counters as he grips his blade with both hands. Suddenly the blade of his weapon began to give off a golden-yellow glow. The armored dragon notices this and merely scoffs. What could you possibly do now? I told you nothing will cut my armor. Let's test that. The Celestial Spirit King lunges as he raises his sword above his head. Let's see you handle this. Celestial Star Slash. The king swung fiercely as the blade connected to the shoulder with the crack. The result was instantaneous. The blade pierced right through the armor and the flesh of the dragon as he sliced him diagonally. The armored dragon screeched in pain as blood spilled out of the deep wound. It tries desperately to strike the king by flailing its arms, but the spirit easily dodges all of the attacks before grabbing the dragon by the throat. Die, you foul beast. The king spat as he bisected the dragon, slashing the same wound again. The dragon's carcass falls in a heap as gallons of blood pool into the carved concrete of the ruined kingdom. Now to help my queen and one of my oldest friends. Arg. Yugo grunts before growling. I will not fall to you. Anna narrowed her eyes. She had grown tired of this fight. Let's finish this, Irene. The enchantment dragon nodded. Agreed. Dark nebula lightning roar. As the black lightning dragon fired a massive roar of black and violet lightning. Senninryu no Shinijiryu no Hoko. Anna and Irene countered with their own signature roars. Anna's is a spiral multicolored blast, while Irene's roar was a pale white and red magical blast. The attacks collide, causing a dome of energy to begin growing as the beams struggle for supremacy. However, Anna and Irene were gaining a slight edge over Yugo as they were working together. The dark rebellion dragon could feel himself beginning to be pushed back as his feet slowly skidded on the ground. It gritted its teeth as it refused to fall so easily. However, he was jerked out of his concentration as he felt his back get sliced open by the sharp end of a blade. He turns to see the celestial spirit king a few feet away from him. Now's your chance. Finish it. The two women nodded as they released even more magical energy as their roars doubled in size and pushed the dome of energy right into Yugo. The last thing the women and king saw was the dragon's body getting consumed by the dome and the two blasts as his body disintegrated into dust. As the smoke cleared to show that the battle was indeed over, Anna and Irene sighed. That was a workout. Anna dropped out of her transformation. Are you okay? Irene asked. A few bruises, but I can manage. Anna then turned to her spirit. What about you? The king shook his head. No worries, my queen, I am quite healthy. Thank goodness. Before they could continue their conversion, the three were blinded by an incredible light illuminated the night sky. Everything went silent for a few seconds before. Boom. One of the largest explosions in the night erupted as massive bellowing winds passed over the entire capital. Ah! Anna cried as she was nearly sent flying if Irene had not caught her. Thankfully their barriers were activated to help them stay on the ground. What the hell? Anna exclaimed. It's Naruto. He must have unleashed an incredibly powerful spell to try and kill Gidora. Irene exclaimed in reply. The devastating aftermath of the attack finally let up as the three could relax for a moment. Powerful indeed. I'm pretty sure the entire capital and around a 20-mile radius away from the kingdom felt that as well. Anna and Irene looked out in the direction they felt Naruto's magical signature. Please be careful, Naruto. The two ladies pleaded as they prayed for their husband's safety. Wendy's team. Gah! Lucy grunted as she skidded across the ground and held her abdomen in pain. She looks up to see several dragon drones surrounding her as they are about to blast her. However, before the blasts could be fired, Yukino, Virgo, and Loke appeared and blasted the drones away. Haim-sama, Lucy Haim. Are you okay? Lucy slowly gets up. I'm alright. Thank you. Another drone appears behind her, but she quickly uses her energy whip to bisect the drone. At this rate, this is never gonna end, Lucy mutters in exasperation. Yukino nods in agreement. They just keep coming. We need to find a way to end this soon. We can't do this forever. Suddenly, Yukino gets a sucker punch by a drone blast. Yukino. Everyone shouted in shock, with Angel being the loudest. Lucy would have gone to help her if the drones did not surround her and her two spirits. Yukino struggled to get up but was pushed back down by the clawed feet of one of the drones on her chest. The white-haired stellar mage coughed out as she glared up at the drones surrounding her. The hatchlings of Mother Glare opened their jaws as Ethernano began pouring in as they formed spheres in their maws. Yukino closed her eyes, preparing for the worst. But before Yukino could be vaporized, the hatchlings were all blasted by a bright green beam of magical energy that eradicated the top halves of the drones. Yukino opened her eyes to see the bottom halves of the dragon drones fall to the ground. She turned to see her sister, Angel, standing a few feet away from her with a familiar spirit. Nei-san, Yukino muttered. Get up, Yukino. You can't stay on the floor forever. Yukino nodded as she slowly got back up. Hi. Yukino noticed the spirit that her sister was using. How did you get back your Kylum spirit? I thought you lost it after you were arrested. Angel gave her little sister a teasing smile. Getting an early recess, let me get access to my little baby again. Angel patted the spirit as it hummed in agreement. The two turned to several drones approaching them. Now let's get these bastards. Hi, Nei-san. Ha! Akame cried as she cut through several more drones. She turned to her sister as she bisected another one as well. Kurome, are you okay? Kurome nodded. Hi, Nei-san. Najinda had finished punching a drone in the chest when she turned to see one approaching the princess. Hisui. She called as Najinda raised her prosthetic arm and launched her false arm like a grappling hook. The hand grabbed the drone from behind the neck, and Najinda reeled it back in before crushing the captured neck and slamming it to the ground. Najinda. Hisui murmured. Are you alright, Haim-sama? Hisui nodded. Yes. Thank you. Najinda turned to see everyone was beginning to pant a lot. Everyone was going to reach their physical limits soon. This isn't good. If we don't end this soon, we are going to run out of magical reserves and be left helpless to these abominations. Boom. Everyone turned to see objects land near the center of the balcony. When the smoke cleared, everyone's eyes widened as they recognized what or rather who had crashed landed. Wendy. Mirajan. Ah. Wendy moaned as she lay embedded in the earth with Mira being in a similar state. My head is spinning. The takeover mage groaned. Mira, is the world supposed to be upside down? Wendy groggily asked. Maybe. Lucy and Loke quickly came to their sides as they helped the two downed mages up. Wendy, are you okay? Wendy shook her head a few times as she regained her bearings. Besides my brain bouncing all over inside my head. Yeah, I am just peachy. What she said, Mira replied as she got back on her feet. The four then heard a loud booming laugh. Wendy and Mira narrowed their eyes as they glared up at the familiar dragon hovering over them. Hee ha 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 ha. You arrogant, stupid brats. Zirconis mocked. Did you really think you could defeat me? Enchantments. Dragon force. Don't make me laugh. It doesn't matter what you have, you humans are still no match for the power of Arg. Before Zirconis could continue his mocking rant, Grandini came right above him and gave a sharp kick to the back of his head. You talk too much, Zirconis. Grandini then slammed her tail into Zirconis's unguarded cheek and sent him flying back a few feet. Zirconis glares at Grandini as he wipes the blood off his lower jaw. You're going to pay for that, bitch. The Sky Queen merely scoffed. Next time don't monologue and fight then. Back on the ground, Wendy was watching her mother brawl against the Jade Dragon with a critical eye. We need to overturn this stalemate, she muttered. Guess I have no chance but to unveil that form again. Wendy. Lucy asked in concern as the other looked on in worry. Ka-boom. The crackle of thunder got everyone's attention as they looked up to the heavens above the two dragons into the cloudy night sky. As the flashes of the lightning pass with the crackling booms of thunder, the onlookers could see the silhouettes of Acnologia and Gidora battling it out. Daddy. Wendy shook her head. No time to worry. She sighed as she closed her eyes. Dark. Time to go SDQ again. You got it, now raise some hell again. Wendy was covered once more in a dark spiral of energy that nearly blew her friends and allies away. Wendy. Several people exclaimed. This power is just like, Mira muttered as she looked at Wendy in shock. A familiar dark violet cloak bubbled out of her body as it covered her body once more in the shape of a fox. Sky Dragon Queen mode. Everyone was nearly left stupefied at the amount of power Wind was expelling. Holy shit. I never knew Wendy could get this powerful in such a short amount of time. Lucy exclaimed in shock and awe. I know. It's mind-boggling. I would say she's S rank at least. Loki guessed. Mira turned toward the lion spirit, at least. Are you kidding me? I'm pretty sure she's around Laxus level in that form. Grandini and Zirconis turned to look down to look at the now transformed Wendy. Grandini couldn't hide the look of pride at how far her daughter had come under her father's tutelage, but she worried about the power consuming her mind and body. So she has access to your power, Well, not like it will change anything. Zirconis remarked. Everyone. I have a plan. But I need you to follow my lead. Wendy asked as she turned to her teammates. Will you help me? All of the mages near her nodded. We will stand by you, Wendy. Lucy proclaimed. Mira. To the skies. Wendy then flew into the air with Mira not too far behind. The two flew up to stand near both sides of Grandini. Mom, I have a plan. But I'll need your help. Grandini slightly turned her eyes to her daughter. Just tell me what you need. When you see an opening, I need you to hold him for a few minutes, Wendy explained in a hushed whisper. Grandini wondered what her daughter could be planning, but she decided to place her faith in the girl. Got it. Whatever plans you make will fail. Zirconis roared as he fired a breath attack. But Grandini countered with her own, which caused a minor dust cloud to cover the area. Mira burst through the smoke with her arms coated in her magical energy. Soul extinction. Mira fired her signature attack at point-blank range into the Jade Dragon's face. Zirconis reared his head back from the slight burns he suffered from the attack. He opened his eyes to glare hatefully at Mira. He was getting sick of this back-and-forth game. Before Mira could move, Zirconis quickly caught her in his claws. Zirconis started to squeeze as Mira struggled to get out of the tight grip. I'm going to crush you. And your crushed corpse will be a reminder as to why you humans will be nothing but sacks of meat for my kind to eat. Mira coughed a bit before she began to slowly chuckle. Zirconis looked at the trapped human in confusion. And what do you find so funny? Your blindness to the truth. Mira then was covered in a flash as Wendy suddenly appeared where Mira was. Zirconis's eyes widened. What? Wendy used his moment of surprise to free his hands and put them in front of his face and shouted, solar flare. Arg! Zirconis roared in pain from the burning sensation he felt in his eyes. My eyes. They burn. You'll pay for this. Wendy quickly jumped back to avoid a wild arm swipe. Now Mom. Wendy shouted as Grandini descended right above Zirconis and used her claws to grab his wings and used her tails to coil around his arms and neck. Now's your chance, Wendy. Wendy nodded as she created a wind clone. The two raised their arms into the air as Eternano began to gather into the palms of their hands. The magic particles condensed into a familiar dark blue sphere with a transparent outer violet cloak covering the sphere. The two Wendy then began to add more Eternano of her sky magic into the Rasengan. This caused the Rasengan to expand into the size of a large volleyball. But there was something else. The Rasengan had taken a light blue hue with 4 white sonic blades swirling across the sphere. This caused the Rasengan to give off a screeching sound that could be heard by everyone in the vicinity. What is that? Lucy exclaimed. I don't know, but it sounds horrible, Yukino complained as she heard one hand to her ear. Zirconis regained her bearings just as the two Wendy appeared right in front of him. His eyes widened at the power coming from the spheres but he could do nothing to evade it. Tenryu no double K's Kyubi Rasengan, Sky Dragon's double wind 9-tailed spiraling sphere. The two clones shouted in unison as they slammed their attack right into Zirconis's abdomen. Zirconis roared in pain as the screeching balls of energy drilled into his body and actually began ripping, piercing his scales and digging into his vulnerable flesh. Grandini added her own roar attack to increase the potency of the attacks on Zirconis. The sheer force of the attacks was pushing him downwards, but the Jade Dragon was using every ounce of strength to resist the pushback. You will not defeat me. Wendy now. Zirconis took this opportunity to blast the two Wendys before they could attack him again. However, to his shock, both of them disappeared. Zirconis's eyes widened in horrible realization. Both were clones. Then where is the real one and that other one? Suddenly he noticed a violet glow above him and looked to see something that horrified him. It was Wendy and Mira descending towards him with a large black sphere with wind blades between them. Take this, you green-scaled bastard. Wendy growled. Our combined power. Mirajan finished. Will be your fall. Unison raid. Black Devil Gale Rasengan. They shouted in unison. The third Rasengan was slammed into Zirconis as the attacks combined together to form a giant swirling tempest of Eternano that was ripping through Zirconis as he roared in pain and he fell into the ground below with a boom. A giant dust cloud covered the area of the gate as the earth was upturned from the impact of Zirconis's body. The two mages dropped to the ground as the other mages got their bearings. They looked on as they awaited the results of their combined attacks. To their shock, they could see a familiar figure moving in the cloud. As the cloud revealed an injured and battered Zirconis. Blood dripped down his lower lips and cuts covered his arms and legs. However, the largest injury on his body was the giant gash that exposed his entire chest to all of them. The scales had been ripped right through by the three Rasengans along with the roar attack and the skin was torn apart as muscle, arteries, and other tissues were exposed with large globs of blood oozing out of the wound and onto the ground as it filled the crater he was in when a pool of his own blood. Zirconis fired a breath attack into his chest to burn to close the wound. I must admit that hurt. But I will not fall to you. The Jade Dragon flew into the air as Grandini, Wendy, and Mira followed in hot pursuit. How can we end this? Wendy and the others won't be able to do this forever, Hisui muttered as contemplated how they could end this nightmare of an invasion for good. Suddenly, she had an epiphany on what they had to do. She turned to see Lucy giving her a look of understanding. They came to the same conclusion. Hisui shouted to everyone as they turned their attention to the Princess of Fury. Hisui pointed to the eclipse gate. We need to destroy the gate. Hisui exclaimed. Lucy spoke up next. I just got a message from Crux. If the gate goes, then the dragons will go back to their original time. Every available mage's eyes widened before they narrowed in determination. Everyone turned to the gates as they raised their weapons. Everyone attack the gate. Najanda exclaimed as everyone launched their signature moves on the gate. The gate was enveloped in an explosion from all the attacks landed on it. Everyone was panting due to pouring a lot of their mana reserves into their attacks in hopes of destroying the gates. However, to their shock, the gate came out of the smoke cloud completely undamaged. What the fuck? Angel exclaimed, it barely has a scratch. Karome complained. Hisui bit her lip in frustration, the gate is made of magic-resistant metal, maginium. She explained. We need something physically strong to smash the gate. We can't use magic attacks. And we need to reserve our strength, we can't complete our plan. The only one that has the physical strength we need is Wendy or Grandini. But they're preoccupied fighting Zirconis. Lucy replied. Suddenly everyone felt the temperature in the area increase rapidly. What's going on? Yukino pointed up into the sky. Look. Everyone looked up to see an enormous fireball fast approaching them and in a direct collision course for the gate. Najanda's eyes widened before grabbing Hisui and running as fast as she can. Move. Move. No one questioned her order as everyone ran as fast as they could to get away as the fireball collided with the gate. A fiery explosion enveloped the gate and sent all the mages in the vicinity flying for several feet before landing harshly into the ruined grounds of the capital. What in the world was that? Angel screeched. The dust cleared and everyone was shocked to see Motherglare covered in third-degree burns and two familiar dragons hovering over him. Future Rogue was on the ground with a familiar fire dragon slayer above him. Natsu. The gate has been destroyed. Natsu turned to see Lucy and the others rushing towards him. Hey, guys. Natsu greeted. Natsu, what happened with you? How did you beat him? Lucy asked. Natsu blinked before chuckling a bit. Well, went something like this. Earlier in the invasion, Natsu vs. Rogue. Reienryu no Tekken. Hakueryu no Tekken. The dual elemental iron fists collided against one another as shockwaves of fire, lightning, white, and shadow rippled across the surface of Motherglare's back. No matter how many times you get up. You won't beat me. Natsu growled at Future Rogue's taunts. We'll see about that, asshole. Future Rogue chuckled. All the tenacity in the world will not give you an edge against me. The two turned when they heard a loud boom in the distance. The two dragon slayers gazed at the battle between Acnologia and Gidora. Lightning and Etherian rippled across the skies that illuminated the heavens before turning dark again. You may have Acnologia on your side, you will all fall to me and I will reign as king. And I told you before that the only king I would ever bow to is Naruto. Future Rogue smirked as dodged Natsu's onslaught before striking Natsu with a roundhouse kick to the head. Natsu was left slightly dazed, which allowed Future Rogue to slam a harsh right cross that sent Natsu tumbling back. Natsu managed to regain some sense to hold onto one of Motherglare's scales to avoid falling off of the dragon. Future Rogue smirked at his own opponent. Do you not care about Frosh? Natsu demanded. What? Future Rogue asked in false confusion. Natsu glared at him. What about Frosh? Have you forgotten that he's down there? Do you not care about him? Future Rogue gave Natsu a blank stare. Frosh is going to die either way. Whether it's now or 1 year from now like in my original timeline, it all will end the same. He's still alive now. Someone who doesn't know despair has no right to talk. Future Rogue proclaimed as he fired a torrent of shadow and white magic. Gah! Natsu grunted as he was sent flying off Motherglare and into the air. Natsu was sailing into one of the standing buildings when a draconian paw caught him. Natsu shook his head as he regained his bearings. You seem to be struggling a bit, Natsu. A voice said that caused Natsu to freeze as he recognized the voice. He looked up to see the smirking maw of his foster father, Igneal. Igneal, Natsu muttered as Igneal smiled. Hello, Natsu. What the hell have you been doing all this time? Natsu, listen, whoa. Igneal stumbled on his words as he dodged an attack from Motherglare. However, before the adamantine dragon could attack again, he was blindsided by a giant ball of flames. You will pay for using me as your pawn brat. Roared Atlas Flame as he began to engage Motherglare in combat. While this was going on, Natsu was continuing his rant towards Igneal. Why were you and the other dragons doing inside of us? What happened on X777? And how the hell is Naruto really Acnologia? Quiet Natsu. Igneel finally roared to shut his son up. What did you say? Natsu comically exclaimed. Igneel sighed. Look, I know you have a lot of questions, son, but they will have to wait until we get through this night. You promise to tell me everything. Igneel nodded. You have my word, Natsu. Natsu then turned back to Motherglare and Atlas fighting. Okay then, let's go. Igneel tightens his grip on Natsu. Alright. Hang on tight. Atlas Flame, why have you gone against my orders? Future Rogue demanded. Atlas Flame scoffed. Your orders? Don't talk such rubbish to me. I feel ashamed to let the likes of you control me. I must repay my brother Igneel for freeing my mind. Now I will make you pay for your crimes against me. Do you think your flames will pierce my adamantine scales, Atlas Flame? Motherglare mocked. Atlas Flame narrowed his eyes. You have forgotten two important details, Motherglare. And what are they? Never underestimate my hellfire. And two, I am not alone. Motherglare had little time to react as he was slammed from behind by a fiery blow. The adamantine dragon roared in pain as his back scorched from the burns it received. It turned back to see Igneel flying a few feet away from him. Igneel, Motherglare growled as the fire dragon king smirked. It's been a long time, Motherglare. You think the two of you can defeat me? Don't be foolish. I can tell you are weak, Igneel. Your hibernation has stolen your power. All the more humiliating it will be when a crippled dragon like me beats you. Don't mock me, Arg. Motherglare was interrupted as he was blindsided by a sucker punch by Atlas Flame. Natsu. Yeah, Dad. I want you to get on Atlas Flame. Natsu frowned. Why would Igneel want him to get on a dragon, made of flames? Natsu's eyes widen in recognition before giving his father a giant grin. Igneel returns it with his own cocky grin. Yes, sir. Natsu salutes as Igneel rears his arm back and hurls Natsu right on the back of Atlas Flame. Natsu took a deep breath as he inhaled the flames of Atlas Flame. These flames are amazing, he thought happily as he continued to devour Atlas's flames. While this was going on, Atlas Flame and Igneel continued their battle against Motherglare. Motherglare fired another roar attack, but the two fire dragons parried with their own roars. Motherglare dashes towards Igneel as he was the dragon that he could physically harm, unlike Atlas Flames whose body is literally made of flames. Motherglare fires a breath attack with Igneel countering with his own signature breath. The beams of Ethernano and flames collided with one another and caused an explosion to obscure both dragons from their prospective opponent. Suddenly from the smoke cloud, came Atlas Flame as he extended his wings outwards above his head and roared, Jigokuinryu no Yokugeki, Hell Flame Dragon's Wing Attack. Future Rogue, fast acting, creates a giant shield of shadow and white magic to block the attack. The Hell Flame Wing Attack collided with the shield. Future Rogue staggered back from the sheer force of the wing attack. He attempted to push the attack back, but he had severely underestimated how strong Atlas Flame truly was. A dragon that is considered the strongest fire dragon to ever be born and second only to Igneel. In fact, Igneel has admitted Atlas Flame was nearly equal in power to him, and Igneel was only stronger to become the Fire Dragon King by a very small margin. Atlas Flame roared as he shattered the shadow-white barrier as Motherglare tried to dodge, but Atlas managed to land hit on the side of his abdomen. Motherglare gritted his teeth from the searing pain of the burns he received. However, before he could counterattack he was struck by an iron fist courtesy of Igneel. The Fire Dragon King attempted a Fire Fang, but Motherglare caught the attack as he sneered at Igneel. Don't be presumptuous, Igneel. I won't fall so easily. The adamantine dragon then showed his impressive physical strength as he hurls Igneel into the incoming Atlas Flame. Atlas turned into streams of flames to go over Igneel and reform to attack Motherglare. However, several shadow tendrils wrapped around Atlas's ankles and wrists. Don't forget that Motherglare is not fighting alone either. Future Rogue proclaimed as Motherglare charged Ethernano into his maw. However, instead of firing a breath attack, Motherglare unleashed the condensed energy as oscillatory waves. The energy shockwaves actually managed to blast Atlas Flame away and caused him some discomfort due to the frequency of the waves. Motherglare lets attack together while they're vulnerable. Future Rogue and Mother Glare begin to charge their magical energy into their mouth as their cheeks puckered out. Igneel and Atlas noticed and quickly breathed in their own magical energy. Adamantine Roar, Hakueryu no Hoko, White Shadow Dragon's Roar. The human-dragon duo fired their signature roar attacks as the two beams mixed together to form a giant spiral of pure, white, and shadow energy. Karyu no Hoko, Jigokuinryu no Hoko, Hell Flame Dragon's Roar. The fire dragons retaliated as they fired off two giant torrents of flames that merged together to form a giant wave of red-hot flames. The two combined roars collided together as a giant sphere of mana began to form at the center of the collision of the two roars. Neither would give in as they poured more of their magical power into their attacks as the sphere of energy continued to grow until it became unstable and exploded in a brilliant flash of light that blinded the four from each other. When the light died down, the three dragons and humans were in a standoff as they waited for the next move to be made. However, the four were interrupted by several magical signatures approaching them. The dragons turned in time to see several meteorites heading straight for them. Igneel and Mother Glare did their best to maneuver around the falling asteroids, passing them and crashing into the city below and destroying the capital even more. Atlas Flame turned to his comrade. Was that Naruto? Igneel nodded. What do you think of his chances or of winning? Gidora is not an enemy that will fall easily. Naruto will struggle. Especially since this is his first fight in a long time. If he lets his guard down for a second, it could prove fatal. Even if the six of us with the Celestial Spirit King, Anna, and Irene work together. It will take everything we have to kill him. Even then it would not be an easy victory. The two were cut from their musing when Mother Glare barreled right into them. The two fire dragons managed to dodge as the adamantine turned his attention to Igneel and he launched a swift uppercut to his gut. Igneel coughed up spit from the force of the fist. Mother Glare attempts to follow up with a right hook, but Igneel rears his head back as it is encased in flames before headbutting the adamantine dragon. Mother Glare stumbled back as he was dazed. The fire dragon king then slams a tail whip on Mother Glare's head. Igneel attempted to charge an iron fist, but Mother Glare managed to snap out of his daze and catch the attack. I told you before it would not be so simple. Atlas Flame fired a roar attack, but Mother Glare used his wings as a makeshift shield to block off the flames. The adamantine dragon spread his wings as he dispersed the flames away. However, before the fire dragons could try attacking again, Mother Glare suddenly disappeared into wisps of shadow. What the? Looks like the human is assisting Mother Glare. Be on guard, Atlas. The two dragons surveyed the area around as they tried sensing where Mother Glare could be hiding. The two fire dragons widened their eyes as they felt a sudden shift of mana behind them. The two split from one another as a beam of energy passed through the spot they were in. The two dragons turned to see nothing. Suddenly another spike as they dodged a claw swipe from Mother Glare before he disappeared again. Every time we try to fight, he goes into the shadow. Igneel turned to Atlas. Then we must shed some light. The two dragons were interrupted when they were hit by a powerful gust of wind. The two turned to see several tornadoes and lightning bolts enveloping the entire capital. Is Naruto trying to kill us? Let's just hope it's just Gidora giving him trouble and not Naruto going battle crazy. The two then noticed that Mother Glare had been pushed out of the shadows by Naruto's attack. Now, Atlas. The two dragons fired off their breath attacks, but Mother Glare managed to dodge it, but suffered some burns to his forearms and abdomen. Mother Glare expanded his wings as he flew into the skies above with Igneel and Atlas hot on his trail. The two continued firing breath attacks, but Mother Glare quickly evaded them with Future Rogue blocking any that got too close. Future Rogue gained an idea as he saw several lightning bolts pass over them. The Future Slayer summoned several black mirrors that swallowed up bolts of lightning before summoning one giant mirror above Igneel and Atlas Flame. The two dragons had no time to react as they were by several bolts of lightning. The two dragons grunted in pain as they felt the several volts of electricity course through their entire bodies. While they suffered from the electrocutions, Mother Glare charged his entire body with magical energy as the Ethernano formed a second skin on top of his scales. Dragon Rush. Mother Glare blasted off with a sonic boom and headed straight into the two. Igneel and Atlas Flames managed to expel the lightning from their bodies, but they had no time to dodge and held their claws out to catch Mother Glare's attack. The adamantine dragon met the two dragons with resounding shockwaves from the collision of the three. Despite their guard down, Atlas and Igneel managed to hold off Motherglare as they struggled against one another. You won't prevail against me, Igneel. Motherglare mocks, your power wanes and Atlas alone can't beat me. With Rogue at my side, we will prevail against you. You forget one thing, Motherglare, Atlas remarked. What's that? Igneel smirked. We are not alone. Suddenly from the back Atlas, a familiar fire mage jumped on top of his head. Natsu Dragneel. Motherglare and future Rogue exclaimed. He has been with us this entire time, eating my flames, Atlas explained as he gave his two enemies a malicious smirk. Well, how much stronger will a fire dragon slayer become from devouring so much of my flames for such a long time? Fairy Tale Ost. Natsu's theme extended. RWAAAAAAAAAAR. Natsu roared as his body was encased in a golden-white fire aura and red scales began covering his entire body. That's. Atlas began as Igneel nodded. Dragon Force. Or to be more precise, an enhanced version thanks to your hell flames. However, the intrigue of everyone peaked when Natsu continued to release more of his magical power as it kept rising. What is he doing? Atlas asked. It looks like he's trying to push his form even further, Igneel replied. Suddenly yellow lightning began dancing around Natsu's body in conjunction with the fiery aura. Lightning Hell Flame Dragon Force. Natsu roared proudly. Oh. A dual element mode on top of Dragon Force. You have quite the son, Igneel. Igneel nodded. Indeed I do. Natsu crouched down with a wicked gleam in his eyes. Now, let the real begin. Let's go, Dad. Uncle. Atlas Flame couldn't help, but sweat drop. Uncle. Igneel had to hold back from laughing. Let's end this you fucking bastard. Natsu proclaimed as he launched towards future Rogue. Natsu lunged from the head of the Hellfire Dragon as he reared his head back. Eat this. Rainryu no Hoken. Natsu roared as he thrust his arm forward and he launched a massive flaming and electric fist towards future Rogue and Motherglare. The adamantine dragon crosses his arms as they are charged in magical power with Rogue covering them with a shadow aura to increase the damage resistance. However, both had vastly underestimated the power-up that Natsu had received from Atlas Flame. When the breakdown fist collided with Motherglare, the dragon had to grit his teeth as he felt the searing flames of the Hoken burn not only the shadow aura and his magic barrier, but even his scales were beginning to burn off. The electric shocks were not pleasant either. I told you never to underestimate my hellfire. It can burn and melt through nearly anything, even magic. Rainryu no Kone. Natsu created a massive sphere of fire and lightning as he launched right above future Rogue. The future Slayer quickly summons a black mirror to absorb the attack before sending it to Natsu. The aforementioned Fire Slayer glared at the redirected attack as he charged into the brilliant flame. As soon as Natsu plunges into the sphere, he swiftly rips it into pieces before barreling straight to future Rogue. White Shadow Lances. RWAAAAAAR. Natsu lets out a monstrous roar that releases several flaming oscillatory waves that melt the lances back into magic particles. What? Rogue exclaimed as he did not expect Natsu would become so strong from Atlas's flames. Natsu rears his arm back as it charges with magical energy. Future Rogue mimics Natsu's action. Rainryu no Hakwaryu no Tekken. The two dual-element iron fists collided against one another as shockwaves erupted from the epicenter of the fists. The two draw the two fists back before they begin launching a barrage of punches against one another. However, it was slowly becoming apparent that Natsu was getting a lead on future Rogue before he finally landed a harsh uppercut into his gut. Future Rogue stumbled as he coughed up blood. That short vulnerability was what Natsu needed as he began to wail on future Rogue with every single physical spell he could consecutively one after the other. Iron Fist, Elbow, Claws, Fangs, Talons, Wing Attack, and Tail. Each one would be launched with more force than the last. Natsu ends his fierce combo with a point-blank Hoken as future Rogue is enveloped in an explosion that causes Motherglare to flinch from the heat, which leaves him open to being hit by Atlas and Igneel. Natsu glares at the smoke cloud as he knows it would take more than that to kill future Rogue. Suddenly he felt a massive amount of magical energy skyrocket from the explosion. You have tried my patience, Natsu Dragneel. Future Rogue snarled from the smoke cloud. Now I am done playing. Do you want to use Dragon Force? Well, two can play that game. The smoke dissipated to show Future Rogue with his body now covered in white and black scales. His eye was completely black with a single white slit. White Shadow Dragon Force. The Shadow White Mage raises his arms and shouts, White Shadow Lance. Several lances launched from his hands. Natsu grunted in pain as the lances were coming in too fast for him to block or dodge. You will fall as you did before. Hakuryu no Ashijinu. Natsu glared as his fiery aura became much more fierce and actually began to melt away the white and black silk. You're a one-trick pony. Natsu shouted as he launched a breakdown fist at Future Rogue. Rogue created wing constructs of shadows to fly into the air but was quickly caught by two giant arms of flames. Natsu crushes Rogue into the fists before slamming him into Motherglare. Natsu had no time to react as several black tendrils erupted from the smoke cloud and latched onto Natsu and dragged him into the cloud as his arm shot up and held him up by the throat. From the cloud came an enraged-looking Rogue. Rogue begins to launch punch after punch into Natsu. You won't win this, Natsu. I have rid myself of all your pathetic morals to allow me to become a true slayer. And that will be the death of you like that worthless stellar mage. Natsu's eyes widened as he growled in rage. How dare this fool to continue mocking future Lucy. Natsu quickly twisted the arm holding him before the two went back and forth throwing punches at one another. They catch each other fists as they begin to struggle and mana begins to ripple out of them. The two then reared their heads back as they charged their magical energy for their next attack. Rei-Enryu no. Hakuryu no. Hoko. The two launch the signature attacks of the Dragon Slayers at point-blank range against each other. They are once more caught in another explosion. Gah! Natsu grunts as he was sent flying off into the air, but manages to regain his balance, only to get sucker punched by Motherglare and sent flying again. Fortunately, he was caught by the fiery paw of Igneel and Atlas Flame. Are you alright, Natsu? Natsu shook his head. Sore, but I can manage. The group was interrupted from their battle again by another brilliant flash of light before being hit with an incredible gust of wind. All of them knew this had to be from Acnologia's and Gidora's battle. Atlas Flame had noticed that the two had gone underground for a short period of time before rising up again. Igneel had also seen the mountain range north of the capital disappear. He also noticed debris flying to the area the two were in prior to the flash of light they witnessed, but he was too preoccupied with Motherglare to really pay attention. Future Rogue refocused his attention on the two fire dragons and Fire Slayer. Let us end this, Motherglare. The adamantine dragon smirked. Yes, let's. The two began releasing their magical power as it melded together as a black and white aura covered Motherglare like a second layer of skin. Igneel and Atlas Flame narrow their eyes. The two dragons turned to one another before nodding. They too decided to let the next attack decide the fight. Igneel begins to release his remaining mana from his body. Soon his body was enveloped by white flames as it clung to his skin and formed a makeshift aura. Atlas Flame also began releasing his own mana as the flames of his body began reaching higher temperatures before they turned from a deep red and orange to a vibrant azure blue. Natsu roared as he began releasing every ounce of magical power he had left in his body. The two dragons dashed into the air as Motherglare was hot on their trail. Atlas and Igneel stopped as they reached a high enough altitude before turning around and descending at high velocity and going straight to Motherglare. Dragon Rush, Unison Raid, Holy Shadow Dragons Flash Fang. The white and Shadow Fang enveloped the construct of Motherglare as it increased in size and it became a mixture of green, white, and shadow magical energy. Metsuryu Ugi, Flame Saber. Igneel's entire body was enveloped in a huge flaming construct in the shape of a giant phoenix. Metsuryu Ugi, Flare Blitz. Atlas was covered in an aura of blue and white flames as he became a literal flaming comet falling from the skies. Metsuryu Ugi, Gurren Hoken. Natsu was enveloped in an aura of flame and electricity in the shape of a vermilion bird of dark red and yellow. The three attacks merged together to form a giant comet of white and blue flames with electricity going around it. The two attacks collided as the skies around them were illuminated by a giant flash of light. However, this stalemate ended quickly as Igneel, Atlas, and Natsu ripped right through their construct, slammed into Motherglare and Future Rogue, and continued to push them downwards. As they looked onto the approaching ground below, the last thing they saw was the eclipse gate before everything went up in a violent explosion. Present time. And that about clears it up. Hey look. Everyone noticed Mother Glare, Atlas Flame, and Zirconis were glowing a bright light. And it wasn't just them. All around the remains of the kingdom, lights enveloped the dragons everyone was facing, including the dragonoids. We did it! Lucy exclaimed happily. We've won, Najanda muttered. Zirconis was cursing out a storm of insults toward the mages around him. Damn. I can't believe I lost to one dragon and a bunch of brats. Zirconis complained before sighing and looking towards our favorite Sky Slayer. You have great potential, Wendy marvel. Grow strong. For darkness is approaching you and all those that have Naruto's blood in his veins. Wendy gave a nod as Zirconis disappeared. Natsu continued to look down at the disappearing future rogue. The future slayer gave Natsu a dark smirk as he whispered something to him that his dragon hearing could catch. Natsu's eyes widened as future rogue continued to smirk as he disappeared. Atlas Flame gave Igneal a nod as his body also disappeared. Farewell Igneal. Farewell Natsu Dragneal. Igneal gave his blood brother one last salute as he vanished. See you later, and thank you, Uncle, Natsu murmured. It's finally over. Natsu turned to everyone. Yeah. Yukino looked around confused. Wait, where's Acnologia? She asked. The group then noticed something fast approaching them from the sky. Watch out. Everyone ran away as the object crashed into the remains of the gate. When the dust cleared, everyone's eyes widened in shock and horror for some. Acnologia, Naruto Tou San.